should be starting up.
You're rightly killing it with the silent thing.
What was that, Misha?
Good evening.
Sorry. Oh, did someone say something? Oh, never mind. Just kidding.
No, I said good evening.
Oh, nice.
Am I interrupting something? Did you already start?
Not yet. We're just kind of getting rolling right now. It is live technically, but we're just we're not like we haven't started quite yet. We're just chatting, shooting the shit. You know how it is.
I like shooting shit.
Yikes.
Me too.
All right. So just as a heads up, today seems like it's gonna be a pretty chill day. We're gonna be kind of moving, I guess, just towards, I guess, a finish, right? Because like I said before, for the first 3 weeks, we're kind of just like working through ideas. We're just painting something, right? Because none of this is actually going to be technically seen, right? Because none of these images are going to be like the final thing that we post, right? Because we're going to redo all this and basically, it's just like to kind of get the ball rolling. So we're going to spend today. And I'm going to kind of show some, just some smaller tips and techniques while some of the other people kind of start catching up. We did have some people start a little bit late, so there's going to be, just a little bit of time for another week, essentially, for you guys to, or the ones that are doing it, to kind of catch up and, just start, cranking out some work. So we'll kind of get started in a second, but once I kind of get everything up and running, we'll just jump straight into crits, and then we'll go from there. So let's see. Well, okay, live stream's up for sure. Oops, I got the wrong asset up. Sorry. Photoshop. There, that's what I wanted. There's been a lot of back end things happening for the streams. Like, it's like nothing you can see, but things that make my day to day kind of easier, which is really nice. So hopefully we'll start getting some quality bumps soon. I still need to figure out some lighting and figuring out some other stuff. So. But let's see. Is this up? Cool. Let's get to it. Let me share my screen on this side. Is my computer okay? Yeah, you seem fine. Share screen. Boom. Screen one. Go live. Sick. Where is my folders at? Here you go. All right, so we're just gonna cover some of the work that we have. It's not too many this week, but yeah, we're just gonna crit, and then we'll get into some of the stuff that I have for planned for today. So with that in mind, we'll kind of look at Alex's stuff first. Let me look at what he typed out. These thumbnails I worked on in the past week. I don't feel like he's successful in presenting the idea very well. I have looked at the studio Porco Rosso and Laputa in particular, and they evoke a cool feeling I used to look at the Gerald Colson aviation prints. Oh, nice. So these are cool. Yeah, so like it looks like where you're like kind of trying to get that, like, I don't know, that grand kind of like I don't know, fun, very like open feeling in the painting, right? Let's see. So the idea of trading. So the idea of a trading/flight sim, so weather and various routes around the world are important. When interaction with the NPCs, perhaps. Oh, that's cool. Sweet. I think these are fun, right? I think it's obviously a lot of these things are placeholders. I like the I guess the starting to approach design aspect, right, where we're just kind of laying in some of the first steps, right? Something that I would think about, especially in like these earlier shots, right, is think about what it's like to kind of be in the scenario, right? Like, whenever you're thinking about new shots, trying to create, keyframes or, images that pitch an idea, you know what I mean? What you probably should be thinking about is, what's it like for the player? What's it like for the people that are in this space or the people that are going to be experiencing this world, right? For example, we're kind of watching this from like afar where like, there's the dude in the flying ship, but what's it like being in there? You know what I mean? What's it like kind of like, those like, those pirate, I don't know, those pirate movies, and they're all like hanging off the cargo ladder on the side, and they're kind of like looking overboard, and they're seeing like this thing in the distance or whatever it is, right? There's this feeling, this thing that's kind of being evoked, right? And so whenever you're designing out your spaces, right, instead of trying to show a specific thing, show the feeling that you have, show the fun, show the excitement, right? It sounds funny, it sounds abstract, but that's what I would be thinking about in this case, right? I think a lot of these, like, these two shots in particular, I think are really fun, and they can be cool, right? But I think we need some readjustment to be like, give me like a first person view of like what it looks like to be in this world. And like, imagine like, you have a ship, maybe it's like, the ship coming in this way, right? It's like, something like that. And then you have the big balloon or whatever kind of coming off frame there. And then you see, in this section over here, we see like just a little bit more, I guess, ground or city or something, right? That kind of shows us like, hey, we've arrived at a place, and maybe the rest of this is like water, or maybe it's just like clouds and sky, right? And you create like some sort of like basically window to kind of see what's over there, right? And then you have like these God rays kind of come in or whatever it is. But the whole point is, you have this moment where this guy kind of discovers, or maybe they're standing on the front or standing on the side here, closer to us, closer to camera, hanging off the side, like kind of looking around, right? And then, you sell that moment. And then another opportunity would be like, cool. So you're selling that moment. What if it's the idea of, they're approaching the place, and then, there's a dock of sorts, right? Like kind of, you want to play through the space and understand like, there's mechanics here that need to happen. There's a docking phase, there's a flight phase, this and that. And really showing that, especially in this earlier phases, right? Especially where like, you kind of want to show the best parts, you know what I mean? Whatever project that this ends up being, you want to give us the golden moment, right? It's just like the trailer. Like when you watch a movie, it's always like the most crucial moments, or the very high energy moments, because that's what sells it, right? That's what gets people to watch the thing, play the game, whatever it is. So whenever you're creating, especially early ideation, that's what you're kind of looking for. You know what I mean? So. With that in mind, I think this is cool. I think it's going a good direction. Start trying to figure out like maybe different ideas for some of the ship designs, and maybe some of the architecture and stuff like that as you're diving into those next keyframes. Right. This week we're going to be the idea would be just to kind of culminate all these three, or the ones you have, into that final shot, and then start making something roughly better, right? Where it's like we're looking at 70%. 70% of a finished painting, but like a solid idea is kind of what we want. You know what I'm saying? So, but awesome. This looks cool. Thank you. All right. Let's see. And then we got Albert. All right. Let's see. What did Albert say? Not so happy with these. Realized today after reading some of your advice, how most of my thumbnails are telling the same thing and aren't abstract enough. At the very least, it's got a bit of a story now. Cool. I was thinking of maybe the protagonist having to implement magic technology around the world, or perhaps connect ley lines to allow magic tech to work. This could replicate the community building aspect seen in Death Stranding. The giants could be against this and see magic as opposing the work of God, typically anti-magic politics. Nice. Yeah, right. Like, showing that moment, like, so if that's the case, right? If there's if you have I guess, this dynamic, right, between, these magic ley lines and then these giants and then your character, right? Put us in that moment, right? Put us in a space of like, how does he connect them? What does he do? Show us like, how this stuff happens, right? Like, I'm seeing that there's a little bit of it, but like, maybe he's in like the middle of, I don't know, digging something, or maybe he's like actually physically connecting it with some sort of magic or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, give us that moment, right? Like, close your eyes, and think about it and be like, what do I see happening, right? This character walking around, he's getting to the point that he needs to get to, and then there's this ley line that he needs to connect, right? And through that, you can be like, oh, he's like summoning something, or he's doing something. He's using magic to kind of make all this stuff happen, right? And he's like harnessing that and using some sort of technology, whatever it is, right? And show us that moment, give us that like up close and personal idea, because you want to see like, oh, what's that guy doing, right? Because whenever you see the character seeing seeing this world, you want to give them like, okay, what's that guy doing, right? And then two, like you have these giants now, maybe part of it's like, there's an interaction between the two, right? What does that look like? Is he hiding from them? Is he have to like, he has to navigate this terrain with these giants kind of around, or does he have to like beat them somehow? You know what I mean? Show us those moments, and that's really what's going to kind of help sell the idea, because we can design all the stuff. We have a lot of the form language and stuff we can figure out later, right? We just know that there needs to be a certain level of interaction between certain things, and that's what you kind of want to kind of show. You know what I mean? So just things to think about. I think they're definitely on a better track for sure. This was the one that you submitted last week, right? It's like, there's some sort of tension here, right? There's some sort of thing. Maybe like they're just walking. Maybe they're just like walking around. They're just doing their thing, living. And there's this basically goal, right? This guy needs to get over there, but these are his two obstacles. Obstacle 1, obstacle 2. How does he get through that? Maybe he's like hiding right here. Maybe he's waiting, whatever it is, right? But you're kind of showing the interaction, because you want to give the audience something to do when they see these images, like they don't just go, oh, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like they don't just look at it and be like, oh, that's it. You want to like, give it that chance to, really show what's happening. You know what I mean? And then the audience will be like, oh shit, yeah, that guy looks dangerous, right? Yeah, of course that's why he's hiding. He's huge. How is he going to get around that? Maybe there's like other obstacles, right? There's the physical ones of like, the guy or the giants kind of walking through. Maybe there's like a body of water, right? And he's, like they're watching this path essentially, and that would be technically quote unquote the easiest path to go down. But now it's like, well, you probably don't want to do that, because you're just floating in a river, going down, and you're just gonna get shot, or stomped or whatever it is. You know what I mean? So just things to think about, So, but yeah, I think overall, keep it up. Let's keep going. Thanks. All right, Andrea, let's see. Cool. What did you type? Hi, Kenny. I tried to bring more mood options. Kept in mind that this is my first time painting mood. Cool. Since last week, I only had brought one. I've added to them to make a compilation. I've tried showing more options of the door, but it's not designed yet. I suppose that the design will be expanded on later. That is true. In some option, I have even put a traditional Japanese village. I cannot finish painting it. I only have presented it, so I can also choose to add some more props if needed. The scene, I would like it to be around the contrast between a sunny and high-key environment with a rather gloomy door. But I don't know if I should think out of the box or go straight for this. Oh, wait, hold on, wait. I would like to be around the contrast between a sunny light and a high-key environment with a rather gloomy door. Oh, okay. Yeah. Cool. By the way, in one image, I tried to pick the demon coming out of the portal and the door broken. Thanks again. All right, cool. All right, so I believe this is the one that you showed last week. All right, we saw this drawing as well, I believe. Cool. All right, I dig that. That's cool. This is the gate, right? Oh, that's sick. You're right. I like the shrine there too, because like I think what's nice about this shot in particular, right, where for one you're kind of surrounded, right, where it's like it feels like a forbidden place where you're not really supposed to be there, kind of, or it's not easy to get there. You wouldn't see that just from being on the ground level somewhere. You know what I mean? So that's cool. Maybe it's like oh, that's cool. I wonder what the white stuff. It looks like rivers. I might get rid of that. I think just because like you have all this water coming down here, which is fine. That means we're below sea level if that's the case, right? But now it's like you have this hill here. Maybe I don't know. Maybe you could have some sort of land kind of like piled up in the back there. But I do like the idea of it just being this solitary kind of thing, right? Because it's separate from all of this. You know what I mean? So I think that's cool. Let's see what else you got here. Cool. Dope. I think a really cool shot, right? Looking at this, really selling the moment of like, okay, so there's something happening. So what's the best times to see a gate opening, right? Like opening or closing, whichever one you want to show. But like if this is the gate, I don't know, maybe it's like a more magical kind of portal type thing, which I think would be really interesting. Maybe like changing the mood and tone to kind of fit that narrative just a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like, it's maybe it's like nighttime and then there's this just light coming out of the thing, or it's like whenever you open a door and it's kind of like it's like starting to crack open, but the light's kind of like bleeding through kind of idea. You know what I mean? Maybe figure that something out like that, right? Because when you show something like this, especially for your initial shots, you want to give us like the most impactful moment of this. You know what I mean? So I think this shot's working pretty well because I like the scale, right? It's like this juxtaposition of like, we know how big that is, right? Because you can kind of put a person somewhere in there. You know what I mean? That gate, obviously there's different sized Torii gates and stuff like that, but it just gives us an approximate size, especially with like the foliage and stuff around it. And you're like, oh shit, that thing's huge. You know what I mean? It's probably like, 20, 30 stories tall. And then, really selling that scale by like maybe kind of adding some clouds, some just atmosphere and some just separation between the bottom here and the top, because, that could be, I don't know, like a quarter mile or something. You know what I mean? Like, it could be a pretty far distance. So really making that feel large and grand. I think, a shot like this would be really interesting to see, like, in a more moody time, like let's say like it's like, nighttime or like, right before sunrise or whatever it is. And it's like kind of dark and it's kind of blue and then it's kind of foggy. And then like you have this like basically kind of magic starting to happen, whatever's going on with the kanji characters, or, just the characters as a whole, and like trying to make that feel like it's, doing something, it's activating, someone's there. Maybe you can even see a silhouette down here, right? Because it gives us like, oh shit, something's going down, right? It's kind of like you just walked in on an event, right? That's what you want to kind of get the audience to feel like, you know what I mean? But I think this gate idea is pretty cool. Yeah. But like you said, we'll get to the gate designs a little bit later, right? We're not we're selling story right now. We're selling the main idea, and then it's like, we can kind of tweak a lot of the designs, right? I guess overhaul the designs a little bit later. You know what I mean? So I think this one's a good start. I think this one's cool, right? But what I would try, like, because when you think about it, right, like this big demon hands coming out of the cliff, what you probably want to think about is, like we're kind of watching this from like far away. It's like, oh, that's that town over there. Like, it's not that it's not scary, but it's just like, you're not in danger. So, you know what I mean? It's not a big deal, So what you could do, maybe put us in the town and you're like looking up at this thing where like it's demon arms essentially coming down on you, and that creates that sense of urgency, that feeling of like you're about to be crushed, you're about to be grabbed, something's about to happen to you, you're not safe basically. And putting the audience in that space would definitely help kind of sell that idea a little more, you know what I'm saying? So but with that in mind, man, this stuff is cool. I think a little bit of a mood change on here. Like there's this really bright, happy, sunny moment. I do like the idea that you're talking about where like you wanted to contrast, the bright, happy, sunny moment with like the darker kind of like portal idea, right? I think that could be cool, right? I would probably play with both, maybe like a dark environment with a brighter portal, or, and brighter doesn't mean like light, right? Where it's like a bright white light or anything. It just could be like a red evil aura coming out of it, or whatever you want this intention to be. But just imagine being in this space, right? You walk up, like just imagine this like a boss fight, for example, right? You fought through the dungeon, or you went through the caverns or whatever it is, right? You're coming out at this point and you're about to fight a boss battle. Maybe it starts very very bright and sunny like this. You can kind of see it on the edge, right? At the end of the tunnel. And then as you're walking closer, you see the storm cloud kind of start coming in and things start getting darker and things start happening. Put us in that space, right? Try to think about like what this is meant to be and what the moment is supposed to be for your character. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think overall, great job, man. This is looking cool. All right, let's go. Boom. All right, Matthias, what you got, bro?
Hey, yo, man. Can you hear me, dude?
Yep.
Let's go. Let's go. Yeah. My idea here, Kenny, is I'm doing like a redesign of Shaman King, you know? And what I'm trying to like to do in this frames are like to tell the story of this tribal town where in which like the shamans gather to fight like in an arena. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Mm-hmm.
So like the shots here in letter A, it's like the two rivals like in the arena. Letter B, it's like the same but more like in the plane base. I don't know how to say it, man. But more like in the I don't know how to say it, but I hope you get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And letter, yeah. Letter C is like you in this town we have like this giant like I don't know how to explain it, but it's like a mycelium tree which grow from the town to the sky like to gather like the energies for the shamans and stuff. And so kind of like that. And I tried like to use like the mushroom growth cycle you mentioned the past week.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to apply that to the island layout because this town is like in an island yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to apply that to the island layout and also like the rock formation in the island. So the main rock formation, like the main portion of the island is this like big rock formation, like when similar to the mushroom when it's like full developed, and then you have like the secondary rock formations, which are like when the mushroom is half developed. And yeah, I think that's it.
Cool, man. I think I mean I think they're cool, right? I think so. Whenever these characters are kind of like in combat, right? Like, that's the idea. They're in combat. What's the fight like? Is it like magical or is it like more physical? Is it, you know what I mean? Like what's that about?
Yeah. We're thinking of like using like using how do you say it? Like sea animals. Like what you know in Shaman King they use like souls from past waters, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And this idea, the fighters use like I don't know if souls, but they use like kind of sea beasts, like I don't know, maybe the kraken or something similar, or maybe not that much bigger, that big, but maybe like whale spirits or shark spirits or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So
Dude, it's like a big Pokemon battle, dude. Nice. So, with that in mind, right? Like, think about, so right now we're designing a space, right? Where I think we're looking at, let's zoom into that, right? So we can see it better. So we have basically two guys and they're facing off, right? And what I want you to think about with this keyframe is like, what are you trying to show, right? Because right now, all we're showing really is the place and then the scale, right? Like, we know how big something is because there's just a guy there, right? And so, like, why did they choose this arena? You know what I mean? Like, why is there a double kind of dome inside? It's not that it's like wrong or anything. It's just, you want to think about like, how do I play this to my advantage? You know what I mean? How are the creatures or the spirits or the monsters, whatever, or even the characters using this to their advantage? You know what I mean? Or even like how this stuff kind of happens. You know what I mean? Like, you ever seen those pictures where it's like there's a cliff side and then there's big waves kind of splashing on it, and it just kept doing it, and it basically kind of becomes almost like a cave inside of that cliff just because water kept hitting it every day. You know what I mean? It kept digging further and further, right? And like, maybe you can have like a similar idea where, this giant rock kind of got eroded away after, thousands of millions of years, or, however long it's been. And there's like pools of water, and there's like these like very large kind of columns kind of coming out of nowhere and stuff like that. And it kind of feels like almost like a cage match. You know what I mean? Like that's the idea that I'm kind of getting here. And so once you have what that place kind of looks and feels like, now it's like, give us an action, sell us the moment of like, there's two creatures doing something. They're fighting, they're interacting, right? There's something happening. And you want to show that, right? You can show like them in the middle of doing an attack. You can show them like maybe about to start, you know what I mean? Like one's like telling it to go or whatever it is, you know what I mean? So really figuring out what that moment is, because especially as a project, we're trying to sell this idea. We want people to look at this and be like, it's like, oh shit, yeah, I want to play that game, or I want to watch that movie. I want to, like, oh, what happens? You know what I mean? And so when you sell an idea, you want to kind of pitch them on that. You know what I mean? And that's what I would focus on next. I think some of the ideas that you're bringing in here are pretty cool. It's more of like trying to show me less, if that makes sense. Like a lot of times, there's like, hey, look at this thing. You know what I mean? All the pictures, all the images is always like, look at this. Let me show you this, right? But give me a moment, give me an understanding of that situation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, man. I do. I think it looks cool. Like some of the stuff that you had last week, and then some of the stuff that you brought this week, and then moving into next week, right? We're trying to distill down into the pieces that we want to kind of commit to, right? Because just like I was talking about with everybody else earlier or in past weeks, it's all these thumbnails that we're doing in the beginning, right? Essentially, no one's ever going to see them. They're just for us, right? But they make it so that we can, pitch these ideas better. We can show, clients, we can show, whoever that, oh, hey, this is the idea that I had. They get excited about it. It's like, oh shit, I want to play that game, And when you look at your work, you need to think that way. You need to be like, oh yeah, I'm excited about this aspect, and show a very particular thing that makes that game tick. You know what I mean? That's why in like I don't know, I guess like Pokemon commercials, for example, right? It's always they always show the battles. They always show the catching another Pokemon, and they show you like the exploring new areas, right? They always talk about those things, right? Because that's what the game is. So for you, what is that, right? And show us that trailer. Give us those moments, and I think that's gonna help sell your idea a lot better. You know what I'm saying?
Nice, man. Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah,
Thanks a
dude.
lot, Penny.
Hey, man. Overall, it's looking good, dude. Keep it up. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mhm. Yo, Riley. What's up, dog?
And how's it going?
Pretty good, man. How about you?
Good, doing well.
All right, what we got?
Grinding out these keyframes. So yeah, I basically last week we kind of talked about that I should try and focus kind of on gameplay and try to like sell some like moments of like what it would be like to actually play the game other than just like the setting.
Mhm.
So I tried to focus on like some like have a cool action shot. This would be like part of it would be, since it's like Robin Hood, you're robbing the train, and that could be like a cool action sequence part of the game. And then another part of the gameplay would be like infiltrating in the next keyframe, like infiltrating like the mining or the nuclear energy facilities. You got to like sneak in. So that was kind of this vibe coming from the mountains, going into the facility with kind of the poison pollution. And then the next one was kind of like if you're inside the facility. I thought it, kind of a sneaking around game, because it's more about there would be some combat, which I didn't show, but it would be, more about kind of sneaking your way in and getting the resources, rather than as much like just straight up gun battles.
Mhm.
And then the last frame was just a quick one, thinking like maybe the nuclear energy is that provides all the power for this world is kind of stored in these sort of like battery cubes, that the rich people would give off small amounts to the rest of the people. So this is kind of imagining like how do you get it, and so you might sneak it, and steal it and put it in the sack, and then maybe you could attach it to your drone buddy, and he would fly away. And maybe there could even be like a drone piloting portion of the game, but just thought it would be kind of a fun shot. And then the last one was just a little more world building, but this was kind of a throwaway. I stopped because I wasn't really digging it, but that was more just thinking about the rich, like climate controlled bubble city out in the distance, and then foreground would be like buried older city with like, you know, they've built slums kind of on top of it.
Gotcha. Cool. Nice, man. All right. Let's see. So, dude, this frame is dope, man. I think I like this one a lot because it gives it, it's such a simple composition, but it really does like kind of set up, set up the idea really well, right? Something that could be really cool is like put us in that zone of like, okay, you know, you want to piece it together where maybe there's some sort of fence thing here, you know, whatever, great, because this is just a vent, right? So there was clearly something here blocking this hole, right? And then like, what if he just cut it? He just like, you know, melted it or whatever, and it's like there's, you know, it's like that that kind of like, imagine if you got a lightsaber and just kind of like, you know how they do it in the movies, they just carve out that hole and it's still like molten hot on the edges, you know. You're like showing that entrance, that breaking in aspect is really what we're looking for. Or even like that door kind of like, you know, on the ground over here somewhere where like you can kind of see that he took it off and he came in, right? So that'd be the first step. And then the next thing after that, dude, like this drone, like what if it was like scanning? You know what I'm talking about? Where like maybe there's like a red laser kind of like coming out and it's like just scanning things. Maybe there's like something in the foreground here with like grid lines on it. And it's like, you know, it's giving us that moment, right? And then like it's scanning basically us, right? Because you're feeling that that moment, and maybe like the laser kind of like gets cut around him, right? And it creates that really cool, I don't know, that idea, right? But he's like walking through the laser kind of idea, and it'd just be cool because like, you know, it's set up like the almost like God fake God rays kind of setup where like you would get that kind of blockage of light kind of happening right there. And then like you would almost feel like this red laser kind of coming through. Like, oh, dude, that'd be so sick.
That'd be awesome.
Maybe it's like smaller, right? It kind of frames it. Because yeah, I think something that you're doing well too. And I would probably do like a gradient where like, you know, just do something like this. Boom. Like if you are going to like red laser or something. Oh, dude, that's dope, man. But like have it kind of fade off on this side and maybe just show like lines kind of coming out. Because now like... silhouette. Yeah, exactly. Because you still want this graphic read, and I think that's something that we'd want to kind of maintain. But then after that, it's, you know, just give us the moment, right? Give us the scenario, show us what's happening, and I think that can be a really cool, fun experience because it puts us in it. It feels like it just scanned us, or it's currently scanning us, right? We're experiencing that moment. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Yeah, I like this stuff too. Like little signs for everybody else, like shit like this is dope because it's like you can spell out things that literally is for us to understand the situation where it's like, you know, if it's like entrance, you know, 005 or whatever, right? It's like, oh, okay, cool, he's supposed to be there. But it's like, you know, caution, you know, emergency vent, or, you know, there's like poison gas or whatever, right? It would be a really... it kind of sets the moment in a very easy way because we're not usually afforded the ability to write like notes onto our images, but like little things like that, people kind of know, like caution, or, you know, or even like what, like stains on the wall, like, you know, usually there's like some sort of liquid coming out of it or whatever, and you see some really cool stuff. So, but yeah, man, that's freaking sick. I like this one a lot. This is really successful. I think this one's cool, right? But what I would probably do is think about like, how do you make this feel like they're he's like hiding better, because he's right here. And like, I think right now is because we see him, because right now I feel like I'm one of them where I'm like, I'm like, oh, he's right there. Get him. You know what I mean? He's under you. You know what I mean? Like you just kind of know. It just feels like the audience feels like you're another security guard. But if you put him in like, let's say like, you know, maybe the foreground right here, right? There's like a pole, and maybe he's like kind of looking over his shoulder, right? Where his side of the head looking, you know what I mean? He's kind of like side eyeing it. He has his gun up. You know, I can draw, I swear. But, you know, he's like kind of slightly hiding behind the thing. And you have a guard right here. And then you have a guard right there, right? Where he's like basically trapped on both sides. And he's just behind this post. And you have this nice big yellow kind of helmet kind of sticking out right here. And you can see his face and his expression. Because now it feels like he's trapped, right? We're there with him. And we're hiding with him. And then these guys, they're like looking in opposite ways. They're like, you know, they're just surveying the area, or there's lights around and stuff like that. Maybe there's depending on how much of a situation you want to create, it could be like, oh, you know, there's an emergency red light kind of spinning around, you know what I mean? And it kind of lights up the area. And maybe there's like one like right here. In this way, like his left side kind of gets caught with that red light, so we can get a really nice, strong silhouette. Ambient yellow light, and then you see his facial expression in there. Dude, that'd be sick. And like
yeah, I was
gun.
thinking that one could be like, I was just trying to get the vibe of like the room in pretty quickly, but if it was one to go for, like if it spelled out, if you thought it spelled out like what the game was about pretty well, then that would probably be something I would want to build in 3D a little more, and then try to fine tune that angle a little bit, because like as I was just throwing this one in, I was a little bit stuck with what I had, so
Totally.
that's what it was.
Yeah, no, I think it's, you know, it's just like, because the cool part about this, right, like, and for everybody, these thumbnails, is that at the end of the day, it really is just these are just things to kind of show us the next thumbnail, right? Where it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. This looks better in a different angle. You know, we're just kind of solidifying from there, you know? So I think it's a good start for sure. If you do end up doing this, something to be careful of, right, is you have this yellow mask, this yellow kind of like color, right? Try not to use that color anywhere else, where it's like, oh, maybe this is like green, or maybe this is like blue, red, purple, whatever. Basically anything but yellow, because you know, you have a yellow environment or a room with yellow lights, and then he's another yellow light. He feels like he belongs, right? Or especially like in this scene where like you get a lot of purples and greens, but then he's a yellow face or yellow color associated with this character. And that can really set it apart and make it feel like he doesn't belong. You know what I'm saying?
I think originally I was thinking the energy fuel was like this orange. It could be like a theme through the world, but maybe, yeah, it'd be better if just like his suit is just this color, because it's like, you know, a warming suit and it's yellow, but then the actual like energy color theme for that he's stealing, yeah, should totally be a different color.
Yeah, dude, even like you can even like bring in like symbolism where it's like green, but like an acidic green, almost like think like money or poison and things like that, you know, like associate this with like rich people stuff, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I like that.
Dope. Cool, man. Yeah, I think overall these look great. I think you have some solid stuff here to kind of go off of. I would just be careful of some of the wider shots, right, where it's like, you know, you're kind of pulling us out of the action here and here, right? But I think it's something where just, I guess, once you kind of establish what you want to do, I think that's going to be, you know, I guess reposing that and kind of repositioning the camera on that, I think would help out a lot. Cool.
Sweet.
Awesome. Yeah, great work, dude.
Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, dude, this is sick. Dude, that would be dope. You better do this one, man. Fuck.
Yeah, I'm hyped about that idea. The scanner would really make it.
Yeah. All right, Johnny. Dude, these are sick, man. Let's see. What did Johnny say? Johnny say anything? Thinking abstractly about the subjects was really hard and something I need to work on more. Went back to exploring other thumbnails for establishing the area and one much closer. Wasn't able to bring them to color this time with the time that was available to me. I won't be attending. Okay, cool. So, nice. Let me go back up. Oops, sorry. Cancel that. I need to find your reference board again just to make sure. right here. There you go. Cool. You had the castle, the factories, and the oscilloscope, and then bone, like microscopic bone. I guess pictures. But let's see. Nice. See, like I think because you have like here. Let me copy this and bring this over. Sure. Yeah. Let's do that. I'll rotate that. Sorry, struggling with this. Image rotation clockwise. All right, so yeah, seeing like this stuff would be dope. Like, I don't know, like I'm looking at some of the construction stuff. Like, think 1950s factories, right? Like because I guess the idea would be we're in like this industrial boom, right? And like I guess instead of thinking factories, right? What if like it's a boom of like castle building, right? It's just they just started building like crazy, and so like maybe you can get this idea of like because I saw a lot of this stuff and I thought that was sick because this reminds me of that bone structure, right? That we're kind of, I think that's bone. I'm pretty sure it is. But it's like, give us like part of the world where it's built, right? Where like maybe the bottom half here is like, fully bricked out and it's all concrete looking, or, it's all like, built and nice, but then like just all the tops and you just see it expanding up, you know what I mean? The whole civilization is kind of experiencing something like that, but except it's made of like, you know what I mean, the factory pieces, you know what I mean? So it's the same type of idea. It's this lattice structure, this structure with holes in it basically, which is basically that, and we just have it like all built up. Give us a view from like inside of here, like what does that look and feel like, and like what are they making, and show us like how tall some of these are getting. And it's almost like they're just kind of going, they're not really stopping, you know what I mean? Or at least at the very least, you can't tell how long it's been that they've been doing that kind of thing. I think that'd be kind of interesting, but just things to think about as you're, trying to develop this idea more. It's, how do we get, more interesting things that we haven't quite seen yet? Because a lot of this stuff, right, where it's like, oh, this is really cool. And I think the paintings are great. The paintings look awesome. And now it's like, how do I make this feel like something I've never seen? And usually like the exaggeration of scale, exaggeration of like amount, right, really does kind of help, kind of set the tone and direction on that, maybe even seeing like how tall some of these can actually get, and we're just in a part of it, you know what I'm saying? So that could be pretty cool. And it's funny though, because I do like the black and whiteness of it, you know what I mean? I guess because like it feels 1950s because, I guess we didn't invent color until until later, right? All the photos are black and white, so it feels about right, which is actually kind of cool. Obviously, these are going to be in color later, but just things to think about. I think I'm really pushing this to like, because something that's going on right now, right? Where it's like this feels normal to me, right? Where it's like cool that you have these two guys, working, doing their thing. These people, it feels like they're waiting for a train, but whatever they're doing. They're doing something and it feels very human, right? And the cool part about world building is whenever you design a world, you want to do like a couple things, right? Where it's like, if you create something super interestingly designed, where it's like a super unique, cool thing, show normal people using it in their normal day-to-day life and relate it back to us somehow, because the audience is our normal people, us, right? And so when we show it, you want to be like, hey, this is how they, ride a bike in the future, or this is like kind of the types of technology that they have to make their lives easier. I'm like, oh, I don't know what that is, but I know how to use a cell phone. I know what a cell phone is like, and they're clearly calling somebody or they're doing something. They just have this different technology to do it with, right? Same thing with like, if you think like Black Panther, right? With the beads, it's a technology that I don't think I've seen in movies where it's like, it's a beaded bracelet that works as like some sort of communication device, right? But it's not really that crazy because, it's a cell phone at the end of the day, right? It's not, obviously it's way better and way cooler in every possible way. But it's the same function and we know it. It's a very human experience, right? And with world building, you want to really try to show that. That way you can go a little crazier with your designs and everything is still okay. You know what I mean? I kind of relate that to a lot of the Miyazaki stuff, or the I guess the Studio Ghibli stuff, where we have this fantastical thing that I've never seen, like a walking castle or, you know, a witch on a broomstick, right? But at the end of the day, it's a very human experience, and that's what they're trying to show. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, with that in mind, these paintings look awesome. I think they're in a really good place. I think exaggerating more, pushing that idea, and seeing what you can come up with. Because right now, if these paintings don't hit something where it's like something that I haven't seen, or something that you're trying to experience, the later stuff will start to feel boring. Because now, like, think about it. If let's say you approve this one, cool, make a train, make some buildings, make some people, but I guess the project really doesn't push that far out of like what we already know. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, these are cool. Thank you. All right, let's see. What do we got? Did I get everybody? I think I did. Oh nope. What? We got one more. Boom. All right. Sin, you're here. What's up? How's it going? Got. I get everybody? I think I did. Oh nope. What? We got one more. Oh, boom. Sin, you might want to turn off the audio on the live stream that you're watching. Yeah, you're here. What's up? How's it going? Got. Hey, Sin. Sin, you might want to turn off the audio on the live stream that you're watching. You're here. What's up? How's it going? Yeah, it's just repeating. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool, awesome. There you go. How's it going?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me? No?
Yeah.
Yo, can you hear me? Test. Let's see. We can hear you. I think the maybe you might have muted the Discord audio, and that's what's kind of messing with because you're probably listening on the live stream, but you're watching on the Discord. So just yeah. Yo.
Hello?
Yo, can you hear us?
Hmm.
Oh, that's
I
odd.
don't have sound.
Huh. Did you try
Microphone.
yeah, check your headphones. Yo. Nice. People in the well, we've kind of figured that out. Hi, people in the chat. What's up? How's it going, Audrey? Thanks, Kylo Legends. Yeah, it's fun. Like whenever the reason I like doing, like, especially like a class like this, right? Something I really enjoy is like whenever we start this, you know, we're looking at ideas and stuff, and it's like, you know, everyone's kind of seeing something different, especially in this earlier phase. Yo, what's up? Can you hear us? Hi, people in the chat. What's up? Oh, how's it going, Audrey? Thanks, Kylo Legends. Sin, the live stream audio is on YouTube from when you're watching. Hello. Hello, can you hear us?
I don't hear anything. What's going on?
Here, just type in the chat, and then we'll try to figure it out a little bit later. But yeah, your YouTube audio is on. That's why it's playing back through the thing, and you might want to just mute or exit out of the YouTube live stream, and then just be on the Discord. That's gonna help kind of do things a bit better. Does that make sense? I hope you're hearing this, but all right. So, but yeah, like I was saying, you know, something that something that happens a lot is like, you know, we'll come to class and then we'll check out the work. Oops.
Hello?
Sin,
Kenny?
can you hear me?
Oh, sorry. Oh, I don't know what's going on. Just everything is off. Sorry.
Yeah. So usually what's going on is you're probably watching the YouTube, right? The YouTube live stream, but then you have your Discord on as well. So whenever you kind of turn your mic on, just make sure that you either turn on, like exit out of the YouTube live stream, or mute it or something, because that audio will come back and we'll hear it on both sides, kind of thing. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
Cool. How's it going? What do you got?
So basically, I just wanted to do a Hong Kong market, and then I think about the game is called the Way Out. So when I played, the two people, they kind of sneak around, away from police people. So that's the idea. And now I'm doing kind of in the block out of the scene.
Cool. Gotcha. I guess so something you want to think about, right? Especially in the earlier phases of like designing and stuff, is whenever you're creating a scene like this, especially with your reference board, right? Like I think we have like basically the same reference 3 times, right? Where it's like, you have Hong Kong market, Hong Kong market, Hong Kong market, right? So the reference board kind of has the same, we get closer views of things, right? And then we get the overall. But it's basically just a reskin of this project, which is fine. Which is is definitely something that you can do. It's not something that you should or shouldn't do. It's just something, that's the idea. So you might want to include more into that, right? Just to make it a little more unique. But with what you have here, something to think about when you're designing out, I guess your shot, because basically what happens is it almost becomes a plein air painting, if this makes sense, right? Like, because, what are we designing here? You can actually just go and take a picture of a Hong Kong. I don't know where you're located, but people can go take a picture of a Hong Kong, market, and then just kind of compose from there and then just paint on top. You know what I mean? So what you want to do is think about the gameplay moment. What's happening, right? What if is the character running through the scene? Is he like breaking through like one of the stalls, and where is he going? Something that I feel like needs to happen is we need to see a character doing something, right? And this angle probably isn't the strongest one to do that, because you're like describing out a basically an environment design shot, right? But the issue with that is, it's a normal market. You know what I'm saying? So what happens is you're going to be drawing a normal Hong Kong market, and then it's just kind of like, oh, cool. So we want to make sure that the design is something that's worth kind of pursuing, right? So if the form languages and the world itself isn't really that different, what you can focus on is the story and the lighting, the color, the painting itself, right? And so what I highly recommend doing is really thinking about like, how do I create this chase? How do I make it feel like either I'm running with this person or I'm running after them, right? Because like if you set up a camera where there's a guy running, right? There's a guy running through the scene. He's going, he went this way and he kind of goes that way, right? Maybe he's like in front of you and you're the cop. You know what I mean? You're the police. Or maybe you're like hiding with the guy behind one of the stalls while, cops are searching, or, there's something happening, right? But the whole idea is you really want to push that story moment, because if all the design is Hong Kong market, then it really gets into this point of like, we're just designing something that already exists. And it's not that it's wrong or anything. It's just, we're showing a design that we have basically reference for everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it makes sense though. Thinking, so once I did this block out in the market, and now I was thinking, okay, I can just put the characters in, and with the police people, like you mentioned, should have some stories inside. So I was thinking, so that 2 characters actually can sneak in different angle, inside this shops, and the police people probably, 2 of them just facing in front of us, that empty place. That's can be shot 1. Shot 2 can be a more closer shot. It's just yeah, that makes sense for what you're saying actually.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it's just like because the whole idea is that we just want to make sure that the shots that we're doing, right, are maximizing what we're trying to say, right? So right now, just think about that. What I'd probably do is find all your shots, right? Make it, do quick sketches of what that looks like before committing to like a heavy perspective drawing, because, I think the angle that we're kind of high up, right? So basically if you think about where your horizon line is, right, like up here, the camera is up here. Basically, the horizon line is the eye level of the camera, right? And so that means we are, like 7 feet, I don't know, 8 feet above, basically the space. If this was like the ground, and if a normal person's like this tall, right? It's not that you can't make that shot work, but we're already kind of working against, I guess, what's happening here. So just kind of be careful of that. Just understand that like placing a person in a scene isn't the most effective way to do things, right? Like you want to design the people first and do the environment around them, because that's the shot. That's the most important part. The characters interacting somehow, right? So just think about that on that next phase. But yeah, I think just kind of keep going. So cool. Thank you so much.
And also, can I ask you a question?
Yeah. What's up?
In the beginning, you're saying is my big, medium, small. They kind of all located in the, which is a Hong Kong market. That's kind of references. So in this kind of shot, if I manage to focus on, the Hong Kong market, so how that can be different for the big, small, medium, the references, how that can be different.
Well, it just depends on kind of what you're trying to design, right? So if you look at some of the other projects, it's like they have, a couple different references that can, bring in something unique, right? So let's say it's like Hong Kong market, right? That's one of the references. And then maybe another one can be like, I don't know, like a futuristic city, where it's like, what's the Hong Kong market look like in the future, 100 years from now? Or maybe it's like Mars. What does a Hong Kong market on Mars look like? Because then the form language starts changing, the some of the shapes and the stalls and stuff start changing, and we're kind of redesigning this space to be a unique space that's familiar, right? It can still feel like a Hong Kong market, but we're designing it with intention. You know what I mean? So I mean that's the main idea, but it's something where it is if you're kind of working with, I guess, the Hong Kong market as a full thing. It's not that you can't do that. It's just it does help make things more interesting, especially as a project, as a design. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but if this because I using the IP is come from the game The Way Out, which is the time frame actually setting in 1970s. So I can't be that much futuristic or very Asian to that kind of style.
Yeah, but you don't have to stick to that exact you don't have to stick to that idea 100%. You know what I'm saying? Like we're just using as a rough just inspiration, right? It's more of like a loose interpretation. You don't have to stick 100% to this thing, because at the end of the day, we're just making a project, and we're not writers, and that's the whole point of like kind of using a story. We're not writers, and we're not trying to, we're not trying to spend so much time rewriting a story with interest and stuff like that. We're just trying to use something so we can start designing from. I tend to reference my, in my personal projects, I tend to reference my base story a lot more loosely, just because I just need some things to kind of help me get to a certain part. But you don't have to take every single aspect of like the time period, the location, or things like that. It can just be, the base story of like the good guy does this, bad guy does that, and you can set it all in your own world. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. And also you mentioned abstract a few times, just because I missed, I joined the live is a little bit later, so, but I rewatch it. You mentioned a few times for abstract this kind of elements. So how this element can place in your design or in your painting. So how that element can work.
Yeah, I mean that's a whole design thing, right? I think for those that are, I guess, struggling with like, I guess, trying to wrap your mind around those things, right? What I would say is look at other projects and see what they're doing, and try to see like, oh, that's how they're implementing, these ideas. Because obviously, right, we can talk about that. We can definitely go into that topic, but that's a whole class, right? It's something where it's like, this is, we're just trying to go through, run through a project. So I would say for those that are maybe a little bit newer to project building or, world building or, creating a portfolio, if you're kind of having a hard time understanding, right? Obviously, you know, definitely ask questions, but really pay attention to not just the crits that you're getting, but also, you know, everybody else's project, because you're learning like, oh, that's how they used this reference, or that's how they use that reference, right? And it can be a really interesting way to think and see how others think, right? But you know, the main idea behind using abstract ideas is, you know, you're trying to bring in a different characteristic to another reference, right? For example, if you have a Hong Kong market, what if you brought in the idea of death? What does that look like, right? That whole design changes, right? It could be darker, it could be scarier, it could be more, you know, more of a meat market side than the, you know, the vegetable side, you know what I mean? It can be a more underground place, it's more shady, there's more gangsters around, stuff like that. Or you can bring in the sense of like water, where it's like it's a fish market, or maybe they're even on the water and this is like a bunch of boats instead of like a stall, right? It's just you're just thinking about different ideas and how you can combine them to create an interesting thing. But you know, if you are a little newer to design, definitely just keep going the way you're going, but watch how others are doing it. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, right, this isn't a form language class, so to speak, right? We can't cover, you know, the entire topic. We'll probably get there one day, right? Which I would definitely love to. Just right at this moment, we just can't. You know what I'm saying?
Sense so, because I'm currently is in the environment design sketching class with Kashi. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's right. Continue. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Awesome. Did I get everybody? I think I did. Sweet. All right, guys. Yeah, great job. You know, I think, you know, seeing some of the projects, you know, as we're developing these earlier ones, right, it really does like, you know, these ideas, we're not going to be seeing them, right? Just as a heads up for everybody, like, you know, you're going to do this and it's going to be the first sketches. You know, it's always like at the end of the portfolio, you always have like, you know, one or two things that are like, oh, that's, you know, that's kind of cool, you know, but it's like, you always like kind of tack it on at the end. It's in that sketch phase part of the portfolio, right? And that's what a lot of this stuff is. So whenever we're designing, right, these ideas that we're bringing to the table, it's just like ways to just represent a scene, right? The scene that we have isn't necessarily going to be the one that we're going to end up with. You know what I'm saying? So just things to think about as you're moving forward. So yeah, great job, guys. So let's see. Let me grab some of my stuff. Hold up. There it is. Work. What's that? So I have like folders within folders. Boom, episodes, week 4. All right, so we have images. They're coming up right now. Oh, where is my thing at? Sick. So we have some images here, right? I just spent, I don't know, probably like an hour or two, right? You know, not very much time. This one hasn't changed, right? I have some plans for this one. I just spent a little bit of time just trying to get this right one in a better position than it was last week, right? And I think something that's really nice, something that I kind of wanted to do was I have 2 types of scenes, right? And I think we talked about it briefly last week, but I think it was last week or like 2 weeks ago. But the idea was we have, you know, this moment where there's just a bunch of creatures. In this case, they look like normal creatures right now, but we'll robotify them or, you know, make them cool, make them interesting. Because right now is like the landscape's very natural, right? And it feels like a normal scene. And then we'll get into like the designing aspect to make it look super cool and interesting in a second. But for now, you know, we just have the main kind of tone, right? We're hitting a feeling, not a full design, right? When you squint down, when you see the images pretty small, this is really how it should kind of feel all the way to the end, right? But when you zoom in, you're like, oh, okay, cool. I need to address a lot of these things, redesign some of these things, stuff like that. So, but what I did was I just kind of rearranged some things and I put some more things in. And for this right one here, right? I wanted this to be one of those moments where like you kind of walk up on this like oasis where there's like a bunch of different creatures doing their thing. And, you know, we can have some in the water. I can have some in the air. It's that kind of like natural environment where it's like super like, you know, it's super pretty and they're all at the watering hole essentially, right? They're all kind of doing their thing. And I wanted kind of something like that. And then I wanted one where, you know, this creature is like, you know, he found you, he saw you, whatever it is, right? You're not in like, I don't want to say danger, but there's definitely attention being grabbed here. Like there's a focus on you, right? And that way we create two different moments, because in the game, just like we were talking about, I think it was Riley that brought it up, where you can interact with them doing their thing, where they're just, you know, around. And then you can also like actually make them do something where they kind of like bring their focus or their attention to you, you know? And so showing those moments, I think are going to be pretty important. And maybe even like kind of putting in like a vehicle or the vehicle. Like in this case, there's this half dome thing. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's kind of cool. Let's see. Pokemon Snap Car, not cars. Images. Boom. So I want to like create something kind of fun. You know what I mean? Like just a redesign of, a redesign of like what this thing could be. You know what I mean? I mean, it looks kind of cool already. So we'll see how that goes. But you know, maybe a little less looking like that, because obviously that's the new one. But I think you know, designing something fun, something like all terrain. You know what I mean? So I think that could be kind of interesting to kind of do for like part of it, and maybe we can even see some of it in this front section, right? But this week, what I want to do is I want to kind of show you how I would start pushing these things to a better finish, right? Obviously, this is like I was saying, where this is like the first image. This is the these are the first initial kind of thoughts that kind of went down on a page, and then we're kind of refining from here. We can make things better. We can make things more interesting. But we want something that's like at least presentable, because in this case, I don't think this is something that I'd like, you know, post online or like show quite. Obviously, we're like live streaming it, so it is going online, but it's not like something where I'd like really kind of sink all my eggs into, right? It's just, you know, we're just creating something for ourselves essentially, right? But now, how do I start taking this to the next step? But also, how do I set myself up in the future to have to paint less, right? And that's what I want to talk about today. So in the earlier developments of like a project, especially something like this, what I like to do is spend some time creating assets. You kind of saw that a little bit was it last week? I think it was last week. With some like stuff like this, right? Where it's like, oh, that's pretty cool, right? It's like, you know, I think the clouds are actually new, right? These are from the first painting that we did in week 0, right? The reason it was week 0 because it's not part of the project itself. But you know, I made some of these clouds, and it took a second, right? But then, you know, I have some of these trees back. These are from the old live stream, and I'd like to make new things to kind of add to this, so we can kind of start rolling a little bit quicker, because like I've kind of shown in previous previous streams, as well as like my classes, once you have these pieces, things start flying. It's incredible. So we're just gonna spend this stream for one, to allow everybody to kind of catch up a little bit, where it's like, you know, they get to, you know, have a little bit more time to kind of flush their idea out, right? With all the homework that I'm seeing, and even people that are following along that aren't showing anything, right? Just to give you some time to kind of catch up and then develop your ideas just a little bit better, but also showing how I would set myself up now. That way later, I'm not doing as much. You know what I mean? Like I'm not having to, I guess, paint every single rock, because I already have some assets to make. Usually, you know, we could like photo bash that, but in this case, it's gonna be a painting. So I'm gonna kind of start from there. So let's see. So with that in mind, I guess, which one do you guys want to see, right? If you guys could choose, which I guess you can at this point, what would you rather see? I guess the left one or the right one kind of start to be pushed to a more complete. I'll do both. I'll do the other in my spare time. My spare time, but like, you know, throughout the week, and then I'll kind of show up with it like I usually do. But you can you know, pick whichever one that we want to kind of do a demo on today, and I'll show you how I would get somewhere. So see what the live stream chat says.
Tough choice.
Yeah, it's you know.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I like the left one because I feel like it has some more ambiguity to the shapes that you're using. But the right one is a little more polished already, and I would really be interested to see how you take that to the next level.
Gotcha. Cool. We will be taking paintings to a finish for 100%. I think right now, like, I think what we're looking for is like a 70% finish, where it's like things are kind of you know, it's, you can kind of tell, right? And it's like, it's basically everything's kind of there, but it's not like 100% polished, because we don't want to spend too much time, like, you know, finishing something now when we barely even have an idea, right? Because a lot of this stuff, like especially like all these creatures, like when we're looking at this, something that's going to happen is all of these are going to be redesigned. You know, this main kind of tree area here is going to be redesigned, but like all this stuff back here, it's probably going to look exactly like that by the end. Maybe just some cleanup, you know, so this part is going to get a, oopsies. This part up here is going to get a bit of a finish, right? This part right here is going to get more of a finish, this part here, and then, you know, that part back there, it just starts kind of fading away. So we'll be doing a lot of finishing stuff. So just as a heads up for everybody. But Riley says left.
My vote for today goes to the left.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah, I agree.
Dang, we already
I'm
got.
also feeling the left.
Dang. You guys don't like the right one. I'm cool with that.
No.
No, the right one's cool. I'm just curious about the left one.
Curious
Yeah.
curious how so? Well, what about it is curious? Or makes you curious?
I don't know. I think I'm just more drawn to the ambience of the left one.
Yes,
Dope.
I agree with that.
I take it.
They're both really good. So
Dang, I hadn't even a single vote for the right. So we'll start. We'll do the left, and it's nice too, because I was planning on doing this one. I was thinking like, oh, I should probably do this just to kind of catch it up, because we haven't touched it since that one stream that I did it on. But yeah, we can make that happen. So let's do it. Let's see. Let's turn all this stuff off. I need to reorganize some of my layers just to make it a little better to kind of manage. So let's see. CC. So what I recommend, especially like people that are painting, right? Like, I would highly recommend doing a color correction layer on top. So what I like to do, right? I like to paint very ambiently. You saw that in the demo, right? And it allows me to kind of mess with the painting in a very neutral kind of way, right? And then I can dial up the contrast when I want, right? Because, you know, how many times have you done a painting where it's like, you're getting to like pitch black sometimes, right? Where parts of it are starting to get to like, it's starting to clip, and then you try to do stuff. You can't really adjust it the way you want, and the overall gradients and tones kind of feel very like disjointed. You know what I mean? So what I like to do is I like to create this this color correction layer, CC, on top, and I have all my like adjustments in there, my soft lights, my levels, other levels, and stuff like that. Usually it's like stacked with like 20 other things in there just towards the end, and you'll kind of see that. But for now, it's like, you know, I kind of have that separate. That way, when I want to go back, which I knew I would go back, I can just turn it off, and we can kind of start from something, you know, a little bit more, you know, in a better spot. You know what I'm saying? So, but let's do this. So, I don't know. There's a rock. Okay, so let's identify some of these things, right? There's some clouds, which are cool. But we already do have that, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. We have some rocks here, which is great. And then we have we're probably going to make some foliage here. And then I guess from there, what else we got? I'll probably do some set dressing and try to make this basically kind of fill out these, because right now it's like, you know, just like a gradient from like dark to light here, right? Really nothing that crazy. So we'll make something kind of cool for that. Maybe some sort of sand texture might be kind of nice, or maybe we already have something like that. So, but I'll start with rocks first. So actually, I'll just take this rock. So what I like to do is I'll just bring it up like this, and then we'll just start painting, right? So this is gonna be like a big, like I don't want to say like a material rendering thing, but it's a lot of like just going in and kind of making things just a little bit more accurate. You know what I mean? So let's see. Boom. Boom. I want this, so I want this to feel dangerous. I want this to feel like you're in trouble. You kind of mess with this thing that lives here, does things, whatever. You know what I mean? I want this to feel very like not a safe space, right? It's not like super dangerous. It's just this creature. It's kind of like if you see a bear in the woods, right? Where it's like, I mean, if you leave it alone, you'll probably be okay. You know what I mean? But if you mess with it, it's probably not gonna be great for you. You know what I'm saying? You might get revenanted, right? So the idea is, I want something a little bit more, I guess, scary or something a little more dangerous feeling. So what that means is whenever I start creating my form languages for things, right? Maybe it goes sharper, right? Instead of like a rounder rock, things can start looking like broken more. Things can start be a lot harder edged. Things can kind of start going that direction. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm going to do. The first step really is like just creating your light side, shadow side. So let's see. I'm going to make this. Boom, boom. I'm going to grab this color. What's that look like? There you go. Cool. So whenever I start painting, right, a lot of it is going to be like, just identifying where my light shapes are, right? So something that happens, especially when creating assets, when you're photo bashing, it's really easy to kind of grab a photo, cut it out or whatever, and use it, right? Because that's what we do in photo bashing. But whenever you're painting, you get the option to kind of do whatever you want. You have the freedom to make sure that the thing looks, I guess, a certain way, right? So whenever you're creating assets, just start with something, right? But keep it ambient. Mostly a top-down lighting is kind of where I like to stay, just because it's easier to kind of manage once you light it and stuff, right? So that's kind of what I'm doing here. Just making rocks. Let's see. Oh, I've been like super hooked on the line tool lately. I don't know if you guys use it at all, but if you use it, it's really, I don't know, it's really fun. It kind of creates like, I don't know, it's like a square hard round brush, I guess. But I think I like it because it creates like some, I don't know, some solid but almost abstract tones, So I kind of like where that goes. Maybe Mike Hernandez is onto something. Maybe he's pretty good at what he does. So I guess I'll try it out. Oh, so the weight, basically the size, right? If you check this out, so oops, so I have the weight hotkey right here, the weight right there at 120. If you use the bracket tools right under backspace, right, you can scale it up, and it's going by ones, which is kind of slow. You don't want to do that. But if you hold shift and use the bracket tools, it'll go up by 10. That way it's a lot quicker, right? So you can get.
Wait, it works with the line tool?
Yeah,
I swear I tried that. Oh man.
Oh yeah. That's
awesome.
Welcome to the future, man. We're here. But yeah, so it does work. So yeah, if you hold shift, it'll go up by 10s. If you just press it by itself, it goes up by 1s. So you can kind of control like how fast you go up in size. So things to
thanks.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I do. Yeah, I was wondering that too. I had the same problem that you had, where whenever I first used it, because I'd taken one of like Mike Hernandez's classes before. If you guys don't know who that is, he's a DreamWorks, or as far as I'm aware, he's a DreamWorks production designer, and he uses the line tool a lot, especially in his plein air paintings or his digital ones. And so yeah, and I tried using it a long time ago, but I had that same issue where I was like, it's just not like, it's just too slow, or like I couldn't scale it up very easily. You have to like go up here and then like scale it up. You know what I mean? You can also like drag it right here, but I don't like doing that. So, but we don't have to do that anymore. Photoshop heard our calls.
Yeah, I swear I tried the size hotkeys, but I typically have mine rebound. So this is probably another hotkey I need to rebind somewhere.
Oh, so yeah, if you do rebind your keys, yeah, I don't know if it's gonna work. I don't rebind my keys, so it's it works for me, but that's depends on.
Well,
kind of.
I might be able to find a way.
Yeah. Cool. All right, guys, how's it going? Let's chat. Who's excited for Lightbox? Who's gonna be there? Who's doing the thing?
I wish I could be there.
Where you at?
I am in Vancouver at the moment.
Oh,
so
gotcha.
very possible for me to get there, but I've used all my leave for the year, so
Oh, totally.
maybe next year.
Yeah, it's I do highly recommend it. It is something where like I recommend it to basically if you're looking for a job, if you're trying to not you specifically but just anybody in general, if you're looking for just other opportunities, it's definitely a good place to go. But yeah, definitely don't like quit your job to go, or you know what I mean. So all right, oops. Boom. So what I'm doing here is, I'm just working pretty abstractly, right? I'm trying to get shapes in the right kind of section, right? Like I don't need, like right now, I don't really quite know where I'm going to go with this just yet, right? Obviously I know how to paint a rock, but I'm letting like the abstract kind of shapes start to take over just a little bit. That way I don't need to do as much work. You know what I mean? Like it's a little bit easier to kind of fix some of these things, right, than it is to like kind of remake up that paint. So that's basically what I'm doing. I'm gonna be doing that for a second, and you'll kind of see how quick this is. It sounds kind of funny, but like this first section is always like, it takes a second, right? It's like it has a tendency to be, I don't know, a little bit long. It's like, oh, I should probably be doing the painting if I'm going to be spending time doing this rock. But you'll see how quickly this goes in a second. I'll show you. Like it literally goes from like, this is taking forever to, oh shit, I'm about to be done with this painting. And right now, we got an hour and a half, so we'll kind of see how this goes. But well, who's got something for me? Who's got the questions? Statements of fact. Yo, my stomach just growled like crazy, like super loud. I'm like wondering if the mic picked that up. My God, I don't know what just happened. I did eat before this, so. But
Hey, Kenny.
what's up, dude?
I was curious when it comes to, because I know you're doing like a stylized painted asset right now. When it comes to doing photo bash assets, do you do anything other than just like cut out or turn into a silhouette, or are there any other like tips or tricks to making an asset sheet that involves photos that I'm not thinking of?
No, not particularly. The main thing that I focus on, right, when doing like a photo bash asset sheet, right, and the reason I don't talk about it is just because that's the easiest one, right? Is like just cut it out and put it on thing.
Yeah.
But what I am focused on whenever I'm doing it is making sure I understand what piece this thing is for. So like if it's a silhouette piece where it's like I'm using it for silhouette information, then that's I'll kind of keep my focus on making sure that that piece is clean, right? But if it's more of like a texture piece, then it doesn't really matter. Just understanding like the organization on how you're using your pieces. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. What am I doing? Brush. This hue jitter is too strong. So like, we're just kind of rolling, right? I'm just making stuff and I'm like, does this look okay? Does this look kind of cool, right? It's just like, it's really not that hard of a thing, right? I think most everybody here is capable of doing this, right? But it's something where it's like, you want to kind of like, I have a really hard time doing random things, right? I don't know if you guys have that, but like whenever I'm painting something random, that shit is difficult, bro. Like it just looks like strangled every time I handle it. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't work that well. But I'm just scribbling around and then I'm like letting the image kind of show me what's going on. And I can clean up all of this. I can make it look better. But for now, it's like I just need something that's like, oh, that's kind of what I want. That's like roughly speaking in the right direction, and then we'll just go from there, you know. So like it's starting to form, but it's still rough, right? Where I'm like, oh, I want some airbrush to kind of make this feel better. I'm using like color jitter and stuff like that to, you know, make it, I don't know, just like 10-20% better. A little more interesting, some more vibrancy in colors and stuff like that. Oops. Not that one. There it is. Cool. It says Louis? Louis, yeah, I think that's how you say it. Hi, I'm currently trying to build a portfolio for character design and illustration. I'm 19, so I don't have much experience. And I was wondering if you have any advice on what to focus on, or maybe if I have some sort of resource that could help with that. You're trying to build a character design / illustration portfolio. Wait, yeah, trying to build a portfolio. I guess the first question, and you can answer this as we're talking, is what is it for? What's the, you know, you're 19, so you're pretty young, right? So I'm kind of wondering what the portfolio is for. If it's for a class, right? Or like not a class, sorry, like a college, like you're trying to get accepted somewhere. That's one because that's one type of portfolio, right? That's, you know, there's that. But if you're trying to get a job, right, that's another kind of portfolio. So if you could clarify that real quick, that'd be really helpful. Just so I can like guide you in a better way. Just kind of gear it towards a better direction. Yeah, I want a job. All right, cool. So, need money. Yes, don't we all, right? I feel you, man. I feel you. So, what I recommend, right? If you're trying to build a portfolio for anywhere, not even just you specifically, just literally anybody, is know where you're going, right? I'm not saying you don't, but you know, oftentimes it's like, oh, I'm trying to build a portfolio so I can find work, and it's like, well, who's gonna hire you? That's the first question you want to think about, right? It's like, who's gonna be the person that picks you up? Because the way a job really works, right? The way like industry jobs kind of go is, you know, hey, I need a very specific person to do this job, right? You know, it's like, oh, I have this task, right? I have this thing that needs to happen, and I need to find someone to make it happen, right? So, where are you trying to work, right? So, that's the most important thing, right? Because the way the way like art leads and like production goes about it is they're like, hey, we have a need for this type of artist. Cool. Let me go find it, right? It's a grocery list, right? All we're looking for is like, oh, hey, I need a junior artist that can do turnarounds really well, because we're in a production phase where there's a lot of turnarounds in this very specific point in the, you know, in the process, right? You know what I'm saying? And so are you showing that? You know what I mean? Like that's the most important thing. It's, are you showing them that you can do these things? So that'd be the first thing, is understand where you're going, because that's going to tell you what you need, right? For example, let's say you want to work at, obviously I don't know exactly what genre you're in, so I'm just going to name one. They apply regardless, but like, you know, you want to work at like, I don't know, like Marvel or something, or like Riot, or like, you know, Naughty Dog, wherever, right? If you want to work at those places, you know, they oftentimes have an art of book. They have a book that's like, oh, hey, this is what we do. This is what we did for this project, right? And you want to look at that and be like, oh, okay, they want this kind of work. Generally speaking, if they use it in production, generally speaking, they're probably used to seeing something like that. Obviously, you know, places change, right? So there's like, you know, there's different needs. You know, Call of Duty concept art looked different back then than it does now, right? And so there's a lot of like, you know, making sure that you know what they need from you, because that's going to dictate what you need to show, right? Because, you know, if they need a bunch of 3D concept work, because that's the studio that you're going to work for, right? Then that's what you need to show, because they're not going to be like, hey, your 2D stuff looks pretty cool. You even though they don't do it, even though we don't do it, you're hired. That doesn't happen because they're not even sure if you can do the job that they need you to do, which it's always very specific. It's a grocery list. Hey, I need to get chicken, I need to get broccoli, I need to get this thing or whatever, because I'm making a specific dish. And they go to the grocery store and they get those items, right? And so for you, what are those items, right? They're, if you want to think about it like medicine, right? Your medicine, they're sick, right? They have symptoms and you are the medicine that they need to solve those symptoms. You know what I'm saying? It's a very funny concept when you think about it that way, but that's really what it is. It's a very transactional type of scenario. And if you can make yourself show that you can do these skills, that's going to put you, miles above where most people in, I guess, looking for jobs would be able to do. You know what I'm saying? So that'd be the first thing, right? After that, showing a personality, right? I think something that happens a lot is like, oh, I need to show that I can draw. So let me show you perspective. Let me show you these very, very simple rudimentary things, right? And I think that's okay, right? It's not I don't want to say that's a great approach, right? Because the whole idea is when you see it, like, let's say a painting like this, right? Where it's like, obviously it's not done. Let's say it was finished, right? You don't look at it and be like, oh, this guy doesn't know perspective because he's not showing me line work of perspective. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's built into the structure of the painting, so you can already kind of tell. You know what I mean? And so whenever you're trying to show your skills, show it in a way that just covering multiple things, right? Show it with like other things, because they can tell. Most artists that look at your work at that high of a level, like they know. They're looking at the work. They're like, yeah, I can tell you know how to do your stuff. They're just looking for like, hey, I need this, right? I need this very specific task to be done. So can you do it? You know what I'm saying? And it's funny because a lot of times it's not even skill that stops you from finding work. You know what I mean? Like there's always this idea of like, oh, I'm not good enough to work. I'm not, I can't paint to the level I need to paint or whatever, right? But realistically, at the end of the day, they just needed somebody else. It's not always about like, I guess your ability to, I guess, convey paintings and stuff. It really is like, do they need that right now, right? I've been, denied from places, not for skill level, as far as I'm aware. I mean, I've been denied for lack of skill, of course. But lately, it's not like lack of skill. It's mostly, oh, we just don't need that kind of artist right now. We're just not in that production. It's just not in that. We have our color key artists. We have these things. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, a few days ago, I was listening to a podcast. This is what Louis said. A few days ago, I was listening to a podcast where they said that sometimes artists hire because of the artistic voice. But in that case, I'm not sure how to build that really. I know it takes a lot of work and effort, but I don't know. I just find it kind of confusing. Yeah, and the funniest thing, like with artistic voice, right, is that it really comes down to, are you a person? You know what I mean? Like, it sounds funny to say it that way, but whenever when you're designing something, right, it's like, is this something that's even interesting to you? Are you even like kind of remotely interested in the topic? Because I have a friend, and he was designing stuff that he thought that basically people wanted to see from him. And I was like, dude, no one wants to see shit from you, man. Like, just design what you want to design. And then he started designing his interests, and he was just getting calls like left and right. He's like, dude, yeah, I just did my own projects. And I was like, that's exactly it, because that's what they want to see, because you can show your ability to draw and paint through any project, right? You can do that through, whatever thing that you like. But if you're doing things because you think people want to see it, you're probably not doing things, I guess, in a very effective way, just because it's like, you don't really care about the topic. You know what I mean? Like, so think about who you are. What makes you happy? What kind of foods do you like? What kind of places do you like to go to? What was your upbringing like? Bring that into your work somehow, right? Whether that's the references, right? That's why with this project, for example, all of the references, to be honest, but one reference in particular was like, sorry, I pointed up here because there's a shelf full of cameras up there that you guys can't see. So, but it's like, there's photography involved, right? And it's like, that's because that's what I've been doing lately. You know what I mean? And I think that's where it gets kind of fun, and you can really show, I guess, what types of things you're into. So, oops, sorry, kind of ranty, but yeah. I guess you guys know that about me at this point. So, I mean, if you're here and you don't like ranting, like, why are you even here? You know what I'm saying? So, but I think something important for everybody, I guess, on a different topic to understand, right? Whenever you're trying to get hired somewhere, just remember, it's not about you getting a job. It's about them filling a role. You know what I'm saying? It sounds funny. It sounds like, it sounds very, I don't know, very simple once you say it that way, but it's not about what you need. It's about what they need, right? Because they're the ones hiring. So they have a thing that needs to be, I guess, done, right? Because that's why they're hiring. They don't just hire just because they want to burn money, right? That's obviously that never happens. We know this. So why are they hiring? It's because they need somebody to take care of a task, and your job is to find out what that task is, right? Because the job listing would say senior vis dev artist, concept artist, junior concept artist. Let's bring this to, I guess, more relevant topics. It's like, oh, hey, we need a junior concept artist. That is such a broad topic. It's like, do you need characters? Do you need props? Do you need turnarounds, material callouts? And sometimes none of that, you know what I mean? Sometimes just not any of that. And that's kind of where it's like, you want to ask the first thing in your interviews, whenever you can, like if you're lucky enough to get interviews, not talking about you specifically, but just, once someone calls back, it's like, what things are they looking for? I always ask, hey, I guess, what do you guys need? What's your, and it's not like, it's not like prying on it. It's just, you're just asking more about the thing. And they oftentimes they'll give you like time to ask a question of like, oh, hey, yeah, you have any questions for us? You know what I mean? And you're like, yeah, I guess, what are you guys looking for? What's the kind of goals right now? And they'll usually just tell you if in the interview, in the beginning, pretty soon. If they haven't told you yet, they'll probably get there, kind of thing, right? And just look for that, because once you're like, hey, I know what they're looking for now. Cool. So now you need to show them, right? Oh, I'm your guy. I'm the person that is going to fix this for you because I've done that, right? And you reference back to all the times that you did something along those lines, right? I had a job interview once. I mean, I've had a couple of job interviews, but there was one time I had a job interview, and I kind of walked in, and the environment was very like sour. I don't know. It just felt odd, and I could tell from the creative director that he just wasn't feeling it. He was like, maybe he was in a bad mood. Apparently he was. And that happens. That is very much a thing. They're people at the end of the day. People have bad days. People have good days. And we were just talking, and I was doing the normal thing. And basically, it felt like he was trying to get out of the room as soon as possible, which is a bad sign. Like you don't want that to be the case, because you know what I mean. If they're trying to get out of the room, that means they don't like what's in the room, right? And so I asked them, I was like, hey, what are you guys looking for? What do you guys need? Like what's the project goals right now? What are you guys trying to achieve? You know what I mean? And they were like, oh yeah, we're looking for, somebody that has like this kind of fusion between like theme park stuff and like games and like VR and stuff like that. And I was like, oh shit, I have experience in all of that, like all three of those things. And I pulled out my portfolio, like the one I brought with me to kind of talk to them about things. And I just showed them like, oh yeah, this is what I have. This is the experience I have in this field. This is what I do here. This is what I did there, right? This is what I did for this client. And it sounds very familiar to what you are needing. And the tone, bro, like he went from like, I hate you and I never want to see you again to like, dude, we need to hire you now, right? It was odd. You could feel the energy in that room. And like, it went from like, oh, we don't want to hire this guy. And then I was on the way home. Like literally, I haven't even gotten home yet. driving home in traffic, LA traffic. So I guess it could have been a long time, but you know, they just called me back and they set up the next interview already. I was like, what the hell? You know what I mean? Like, it's wild. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that's like, it's not because I'm anything special, but the whole idea is that all it took was, hey, what do you need? And this is how I'm going to get it to you. You know what I mean? Like, you ever need something where they're like, oh, hey, like, let's say you're like shopping, right? You're like, hey, I'm going to prom. I don't know, you know, whoever, right? I guess generally speaking, younger people watch this. So, you know, I'm going to prom. Cool. And like, this is the exact thing I want. This is what I need. I saw this suit that I need to buy. I saw this dress, or I saw this thing. I wanted to play this game, or this thing is going to solve my problems. How much money are you going to put down to solve that, right? And if the answer isn't all of it, you know what I mean? You're not answering right. And so it really is like, just find out what they need, because they're people, they're hiring for a reason, and it's just something to remember. So, and I think it's like, it's funny because it sounds so simple. It's such a easy thing to understand, but I think we oftentimes forget that, because it's like, well, I need a job. It's like, yeah, but they need an employee. It's a different dynamic, and you want to be just aware of that, you know? So the best we can do pre-interview is, Riley was saying, so the best we can do pre-interview is look at past projects and try to do as much of what they, oops, sorry, this heart's in the way. I don't know why I can't see past that heart. It's what they show in those projects as possible. Yeah, basically, right? Because the first thing, right? The first thing you could do, especially if you're somebody that doesn't know anybody, and you don't know anybody in the industry, and you have no way of knowing anybody in the industry, right? Let's just keep it like that. Oftentimes you have access to at least the internet, right? If you don't have access to the internet, I guess you'll never hear this anyway, so you know what I mean? But if you do have access to the internet, then look up the artists that work there, right? The people that are currently there. Let's say, like, for example, I wanted to work at, Sony Santa Monica or something, right? And I was like, hey, I want to work on God of War. I'll just look up all the artists there and be like, hey, what did you guys drop for that God of War, game that just came out, right? And it's like, when you look at that work, it's very specific. A lot of them, like, and you'll see it's production type work, because especially like if you see like anybody's work where they kind of do a lot of personal work and then they show production work, there's often usually a tone difference. It's like, oh yeah, it's like it's just different. They just show other types of work, and you want to just be aware of that, because you look at that work, that's probably what they're looking for, because that's what they do. It's like literally a how-to guide on how to get hired, right? And so that's the first thing. Look up the art books, look up the artists, and be like, hey, I need to show this thing, right? They do a lot of design, like God of War, for example. Like a lot of the artists that I've noticed, they're really focused on design fundamentals, like just really good design skills, right? And, if you're a bad designer, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to work out. Even if you're a good painter, because they have good painters, right? They're looking for probably really interesting, strong designs. And, you can ask them, reach out to them. Not all of them are going to say no to you. Someone's going to answer. I don't know who, right? But somebody's going to be like, oh yeah, hey, I'll totally give you some feedback on your portfolio or whatever. You know what I mean? And hopefully, they're nice about it. Sometimes, sometimes they're not, but that's part of the game, right? So, but yeah, art books first, artists, websites, stuff like that. Watch their movie, right? And you can like interpret it as well if you're a little more advanced. There's no art book out. Like not every project has an art book kind of thing, right? Or you don't even know some of the artists on there. Look at the products that they've made and be like, oh yeah, you would probably need this thing, or like if they're doing like, let's say, if you're working at Disney and they're doing like very stylized work and very, I guess just not photoreal work, right? Realistic 3D models probably isn't in that vein, right? Like on the safe side, you can probably assume that's not what they're looking for, right? And so that's kind of what I would recommend thinking about, right? So yeah, great questions, guys. These are awesome. I think hopefully this is helping too. For those that are listening, definitely like feel free to ask anything that you want. I'll answer to the best of my ability. And remember, at the end of the day, I'm just a normal guy. You know what I mean? I could be 1,000% wrong. Maybe not 1,000%, but you know what I mean? Like it's not like set in stone, right? It's not something where it's like this, it has to be this way. But generally speaking, from my experience looking at different jobs, being someone that applies to jobs, every once in a while, you kind of start seeing these, I guess, the understandings of how a lot of this stuff works. So. Nice. Cool. I'm just like scribbling.
Getting at a Lightbox question.
Yo, what's up, dog?
That's all right. Yeah, so I might be getting the opportunity this weekend to have some people look at my portfolio, which would be great. And I know less is more in terms of pieces. What would you say is like a good amount of pieces, like solid pieces to include in a portfolio when time is of the essence for like a review or something?
Yeah. So yeah, like portfolio size is definitely a thing. Flip through your portfolio, and you should occupy about 5 minutes, right? Where it's like, just open it, look, just be like, oh, that's kind of cool. Maybe like 4 minutes, right? Maybe 3 minutes to be honest. Cause they're going to look. And like, cause I've had portfolios that are like about like the good ones I feel are like 25 pages, right? It's not like this isn't like a science, so I can't, don't take the exact number of 25 to heart. But the whole idea is, you're trying to make it so you're thinking about the user experience, right? Think about a game where you're playing and you're running through a level. Like you need to run from this side to the other side. And if you had to do that for 20 minutes, would you still be playing that game? Probably not, right? Generally speaking, a lot of people don't do that kind of shit, right? Or, especially busy professionals. So whenever you're showing portfolio, think about that. Be like, oh yeah, it's about 20 pages and they can get through it pretty quick. And there's a decent amount of information. And that's kind of what that's where you want to be, right? I would recommend about 25 pages, maybe no more than 30, if possible. I don't know. You know what I mean? That's where I would be. But yeah, more realistically, it's like how long does it take them to get through it? Because they're probably busy, to be honest. Like most of them at Lightbox specifically, it's either they have other interviews, which means you're on a time limit. There's a timer, right? There's other people being reviewed. So they got to kind of move through it. And then two, they're maybe like they have their own table. So like maybe you stop by an artist table and like, hey, can you give me a crit? Which is 100% what everybody here should be doing. I'm not talking about you specifically, Dave, but like for everybody, like, stop by tables and ask for, critique, because that's why they're there, right? If you know how much artists make, you know that whatever they're selling probably isn't their main source of income, right? So, you know what I mean? Like, just understand that they're here to help people. Generally speaking, they should be at the very least, right? And so, like, go and talk to them. You know what I mean? So, with that in mind, right? Just we'll come back to that tangent, but about 25 pages, and keep the main things that you want to show in that first half. It may be one or two things that you're kind of proud of towards the end, but the whole point is most recruiters or most like people of, I guess a decent enough skill set, like you're talking to like let's say an art director or something, within the first couple paintings, they know, right? Like you're looking at a painting, it's like, I'm not really confused. Like I don't think I've ever like looked at a painting where like by the end I was convinced that they were better, right? Versus like the first couple paintings kind of told me everything I need to know. You know what I mean? And I just kind of flipped through the rest out of respect/courtesy, right? You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like that, but it really is like, I mean, this is what we do. We can tell how, what quality bar something is at, right? So yeah. Does that help?
Okay, that was way more like pages than I was expecting to hear. I was expecting a number like 5 or 10 at the max. So that they would have time to dive into them.
Well, let me preface that, right? Where it's like, 25 pages. For those that I guess haven't taken, like, for example, my ENT1 class, right? 25 pages is like, 3 paintings, 4 paintings, right? The solid paintings, finished, like beautiful pieces, right? Because with those 4 or 5 paintings, you have support pages, 3 to 4 support pages each, right? You know what I'm saying? And so you're kind of like, you have like turnarounds, you have prop designs, you have, whatever else it is that you need to show. So it's technically like 5 paintings plus the assets that kind of went with it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. That clears things a lot more. Would you say have those be their own pages and just have full spreads of the paintings, and then they like say swipe next and then they get the whole breakdown, or is it good to include them on like the same visual page?
Yeah. So what I recommend is set them up where it's like, what I'd recommend is like, oh, you have let's turn off this rock real quick. You have the image, the beauty shot. It's like, oh shit, this looks dope. You know what I mean? Like you're creating that thing, and then flip next page, and then it's like the design. In this case, right, the design of the centipede, or the main thing. Like, what does the whole thing look like in normal lighting, right? Because it's not about mood anymore. You're trying to create like informational shot. You want to show them what it's about. And then like breakdown of like the space as a whole, and then some of the props in the area, stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of like, set them up, show them like, hey, this is really cool centipede that, it's very scary looking, is in this scene. And then there's this, there's the centipede, and then there's like the other stuff. Here's a close up of his leg. Here's what his weapon looks like, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah. Thanks so much. Sorry to kind of derail the painting for a second there.
No worries.
So this around 25 pages for your portfolio, are they all setting in the same world IP?
It doesn't have to be, right? I would say at the very least have a couple projects in there, because sometimes, and this depends, right, on where you want to go and what you want to do. Like obviously, with everybody here that I'm talking to, you got to give me specifics. Be like, hey, this is my scenario. This is what I have. What should I do with it, right? And I can give you a more specific answer. But for a more generalized answer, right? Have a couple different things that you're trying to show where it's like, oh, I'm a world builder. So cool. I'm designing a very specific, I guess, thing, that I'm trying to show here. Right. And then also show like, oh, this is how I do vehicles in that world, or this is how I do that. And then you have a couple paintings where it's like all together. It's like, this is the project. Right. And then maybe like have another smaller project, have something else, because sometimes they're like, well, we really don't do sci-fi stuff, because that happens all the time. And it's dumb because, and I hate it because they'll do this shit where they're like, oh, hey, yeah, we don't do sci-fi. And it's like, dude, I can do fantasy, man. This is, oopsies, sorry. It's like, this is just what I showed you. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that I can't do it. It's just, it's just tell me to do it, essentially, right? They'll discount you completely because of those things. And I'm not saying every recruiter or portfolio reviewer does that, but it does happen. And it's something where it's like, you kind of want to show that range because you don't want to get caught in that, because unfortunately that happens a lot. And that's another complaint I have with, I guess, random reviews, not random reviews, but like reviews like of convention reviews specifically, which is a whole nother thing. That I can rant about if you guys want to hear about it, but yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
But and also right now you are painting this rock. Do you also look at reference, or you just rendering just by your mind?
Well, I mean, usually, generally speaking, I would be looking at reference in most cases. I'm not currently, right, just because for one, I'd have to have it on the screen somewhere, or I have to like put it on one of my screens that I'm like monitoring for live stream. But two, I was actually painting a rock earlier today, so I was like, I'm just kind of like I already kind of like know what I'm trying to get out of this, essentially. You know what I'm saying? So, but yes, use reference. You always use reference. if you're ever thinking about not using reference, just do it. But yeah, I was saying, I think something that I don't want to discourage anybody from doing things, you know, like, especially like reviews and stuff like that. It's like, I don't know. I don't know any reviews that like, I don't know, that was truly that helpful. Like, I don't know, like, 'cause a lot of my friends, they'll go do reviews and stuff at conventions and stuff, and it's like, I don't know, half the time you're not even talking to an actual like artist, right? Like, not that, you know, like recruiters, they know they know what they're looking for, but they're still not part of the art team specifically. And sometimes the advice can be a bit generic. It can be very checklisty, right? It sounds funny, but it's just like, it's like, oh, you know, I saw that you had a lot of character work, and, you know, it'd be cool to show environments. It's like, but why? You're not an environment artist. You know what I mean? Like, like, I'm not even making this up. I'm like, this is an actual crit that I heard from somebody. And I was like, oh no, don't worry about that. You know what I mean? It's like, because, you know, the thing is, like, you know, they're giving you advice based off of like what they're like told to look for, essentially, right? And that's not always true, especially in a bigger event like this. And I really don't find it that helpful, right? Talking to artists that you want to work with, right? Somebody like, you know, somebody that's like working at the place you want to work at, or, you know, if you can get in front of their art director, fucking find them, right? And talk to them if you can. Don't bother. Be cool, right? Be chill. But it's something where it's like, find them and try to say something. Try to get them to, you know, obviously watch the moment, right? Just be cool. Be very respectful. But something where it's like, find them and talk to them, because those are the people that will ultimately say yes, right? Because what happens in an interview process, right? It's like the recruiter looks at the bodies of portfolio, generally speaking. If it's like an art recruiter that's like very good at what they do, that's one thing. But like, generally speaking, the recruiter has a checklist of things that they need to look for, and they will cross out whoever doesn't have that checklist, right? If they don't immediately see it or whatever it is, right? And so that causes issues because, you know, it's not black, it's art. It's not black and white like that. You know what I mean? And so whenever you get reviews from some of these places, some of these people, it's not always helpful, you know? And sometimes it's like, it's almost like detrimental, just because now you're having to shift gears because you're believing this person, you know what I mean? And that's a really bad thing that happens more often than you can imagine, right? Like, I hear this so much where I'm like, oh, I heard from this person at so-and-so that I should do this thing. And I'm like, that is terrible advice, just because that's not what you want to do, right? You know what I'm saying? So find the places that you want to work for and talk to them specifically, you know? Obviously, take whatever reviews you can get. Absolutely do that. But just remember, you know, not every recruiter or not every, you know, review that you get is going to be helpful, and you have to kind of understand that. You know what I mean? It's not, it's just what it is at the end of the day. So, sorry. It's very, it annoys me because a lot of these people, kids, like, or, you know, like artists that are struggling to find work or trying to do certain things, they take this advice and they run with it because that's what they were told. They don't know any better. But then it's like the exact opposite advice of what any professional at that studio would like tell them. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying this is always the case or even most of the time, but it does happen more often than you think. And it's going to happen, you know, basically to everybody at some point. You know, you'll hear advice that's just not relevant to you. Not because, you know, advice isn't helpful, just because that's not the position that you want to go for. So why are you doing that? You know what I mean? So, and shit, even the stuff I'm saying would probably be like that. And you have to understand that if you don't want to do what I'm doing, right? Obviously, you know, working is one thing, but like the very specific jobs that I, you know, kind of occupy, my advice probably isn't useful to you, right? Just because that's, why would it be? You know what I mean? It's like, you're not trying to do that. You know what I'm saying? So just things to think about. Sick. Yo, this rock's coming out. This rocks. But yeah, it's just. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I actually did get some portfolio reviews at Lightbox last year.
Uh-huh.
I did one through like Lightbox's official system, but I guess they're changing it this year. So last year we had to you had to just get there super early. Me and Ariel actually from this Discord would like be in the Lightbox line at least an hour before Lightbox even opened. To then get in another super long line. But if you were there early enough, hopefully it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad for us. But the line would just like wrap around on the inside. And then you would sign up for a 10-minute slot, and you could pick, like, there were tons of like just professional artists, like some people that you might really look up to. And I would say, like, obviously kind of like with what you were saying, Kenny, like if there's a specific artist that you really like, or if they're doing the work that like you want to do, like maybe advice from them would be more worth it. But my issue with that system is that it was a lot of waiting for like so little payoff, because even when you got to the portfolio review, like it was 10 minutes and they were like really strict on the time. And so it still felt super surface level. Like the advice was good, but it was like advice that like Kenny could have given me, or like anyone could have given me, because the time was just too short.
Yeah.
And then the other type of portfolio reviews I did was like asking recruiters at the company booths, and then also asking some artists who I also really liked just at their table.
Yeah.
And I would say I did everything that you just talked about. And I can tell you honestly, like for sure, if I spoke to somebody who they had the type of job or were doing the type of work that I wanted to do, it was like, you're on the right track, like keep going, I want to see more of this. And they kind of like knew what to tell me, what to do more of. But if I was talking to an artist that I think one was like, I was talking to an artist that technically worked at Disney but worked with Marvel. And so they kind of looked at my portfolio and they were like, I don't know what to tell you, or like they were just kind of like, I don't know, because I'm not a character artist. And I forget exactly what they said, but it felt so like, it made me feel like, oh my gosh, I have to change everything now.
Yeah.
Like I have to do all this other stuff, and everything that you're saying, it like, I think it is really good advice, just because it is true. I kind of did that last year. I had very little guidance. I just would ask anyone.
Yeah.
And even doing it through like Lightbox system, which is like you get to pick who you want to have a portfolio review with if they were still available, it's still like too short to really be useful.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like,
I think something to understand as well is that these reviews, right, that you're going to, that you're experiencing, right, generally speaking, they're not hiring, right? More often than not, right? Because, you know, what job lines up exactly on October 28th? I was like, hey, we're looking for, you know, like some do, absolutely. But more often than not, they don't really have a job they need to fill. They're doing it because students need portfolio reviews, which is helpful. I understand that. Which is, I mean, there's no better way to do it, right? But just understand that some of the advice that they're going to give you is very generic, because it's like, well, we're not really looking for anybody right now, right? You ever go to the grocery store and you're like, oh, I don't really know what I'm making. So what are you going to buy? You're just going to buy a bunch of generic stuff. You know what I mean? But if you need a very specific thing, then that's what you're going to go grab, right? And so what happens is you go to these job interviews or these interviews, and they just give you advice that's kind of like, oh yeah, fix this, fix that. Half the time, it's not even an actual person that truly knows what they're talking about. and it's a very cookie cutter answer. And the reason I know this is because that's exactly what happened to me, right? You know, obviously I've gotten reviews from great people, doing, you know, from various, you know, jobs and this and that. Like, you know, I'm not saying that all my reviews were bad, but a lot of them, especially at conventions, were terrible just because it's like, it's not useful information because it's not really anything that they're particularly looking for at the exact moment. And then two, it's just like, you know, it can derail you half the time because, you know, you're looking for a job, you know, and you're going to walk up to every table that you can find, right? That's just how everybody's going to do it. They're going to be like, hey, I need a job and that's why I'm here. And they're going to be like, oh, why do you want to work for us? I'm like, dude, because you're paying money and I need it. You know what I mean? Like, just be real with it. And so they'll give you advice and then, you know, hopefully you don't change your trajectory based off of that, right? It's just understand that not every critique is going to be effective for you, right? And you have to kind of filter through that. What I recommend everyone do is talk to a professional, talk to somebody that you trust, somebody that is looking out for you at the very least. This way you can like kind of vet some of that advice, be like, hey, I was told this, you know, what do you think? And obviously it's not about bashing somebody, but if you're going to derail your basically your career trajectory based off of this advice, you really should make sure that it's like good advice before you even do it. You know what I'm saying? You know, I'm not saying all advice is bad from a lot of these things, but just understand that, right? It's not like this perfect place full of infinite knowledge, right? There's bad advice as well. And you really just want to be careful that you're not doing something that can set you back more than it can help. You know what I mean? So, sorry, end of rant. We'll do something a little more positive. but yeah. So I talk about this. I talk about a lot of this kind of stuff with my students. Like, you know, we'll have conversations like this, whether it's like during class or whatever. And it's like, this is why I like random questions a lot more than, you know, a lot of just kind of like setting up questions, because a lot of times, like, I won't even know what people need. I won't even know what questions need to be answered / talked about. I'm just kind of painting. I'm doing my thing. And it's these kind of things that I feel are really important for everybody to know. I hope it's helpful. I don't want to be too negative, but you know, it's just the reality of the situation where, you know, not everything you hear is useful, and not even everything in here is going to be useful to you, right? Like this live stream specifically, just letting you know right now, there's going to be something that doesn't apply to you, right? Don't do everything I say, but at the very least, understand what I mean. And that's how you kind of progress through things just a little bit better. You know what I'm saying? So, all right, let me read some of these. Oh, go ahead, Audrey.
No, read some of your comments. I was gonna like continue this conversation, but maybe you're over it.
Oh no, I was gonna read to some people responding. Let's see. Yeah, so read the Riley one already. All right. Breads' rant, cool. Fosco says, "Hey Kenny, I don't know if you already talked about this point, but would you recommend when sending? What would you recommend when sending emails? Is it known? At least I have been told that they usually don't check the emails. And in my case, I don't have the opportunity to attend events like Lightbox. Yeah. So, you know, I do respond to my emails. I mean, I don't respond to the spammy ones, you know what I mean? Where it's like, hey, you know, you want to sponsor for this skincare product, which you'd be surprised how often I get shit like that. Like, you look perfect for this sunglasses brand. I'm like, sure, man. But anyway, I do always check my emails, right? And with that being said, you know, I'm one particular person, you know what I mean? So it's not always like that. So just know that, right? But the worst thing that can happen if you send an email like that is they just don't respond. You're exactly where you were when you didn't send anything. You know what I'm saying? So just send it. Just see what happens. Obviously, if they don't respond, stop there. You know what I mean? Like, just be chill about it. You know, it's like, don't just be like, hey, where the fuck is my response? You know what I mean? Don't say that. But it's something where it's like, you know, just send it. See what happens. I've given people, you know, full page essays. I mean, that's just me. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm a freak. Who knows? But that's what I've done, and hopefully it's helped some of the people that I've sent it to. I mean, they said it helped. You know, maybe they're being nice. Who knows? But you know, there's really not a hurt to it, right? If you're somebody that is a little bit newer, right? This is something I'd recommend for basically anybody in I guess trying to get into I guess starting school and stuff. Don't send anything quite yet. Just wait. That's like the last thing you should do. Not saying that in a panicky kind of bad way, but it is something where it's like if you don't really have any true needs, don't say anything yet, right? Because you're still learning, still doing your thing, right? Because you don't want that first interaction to be like, hey, I'm a student and I have no idea where I'm going. Can you please help me out? Just Google that question. Whatever you're about to write in that email, just type it in Google, click enter, see what happens. It might send you here, shit, you know what I mean? Digital vegetables, right? But just understand that, you know, it's something where if it's a very easily Googleable thing, don't ask it, because now it just doesn't look good. You know what I mean? Like you don't look like you're doing your research. So the chances of someone responding really does get cut in half. You know what I mean? So, but if you are in a more advanced situation, right? Let's say intermediate to advanced student, you're like, hey, I really like your work. I really want to work at, you know, your studio, or I want to work at the studio that you work at. What do you recommend that I do? Here's my portfolio. That's perfect, right? Because it's like, for one, you leave it for them to answer and you show them portfolio, but also, you know, they'll give you advice. They'll be like, hey, yeah, well, you know, we're looking for this kind of stuff. We do a lot of 3D heavy work. So can you show me some more of that 3D heavy work or whatever? And you kind of start that dialogue, right? Be very respectful, right? You don't want to like piss anybody off. You don't want to do anything that's annoying, but it is something where it's like, give them the chance to not respond, but also give them a very direct answer. Because I don't ignore it, but you'll get like a 2-sentence or 1-sentence answer from me where it's like, hey, what should I do? I'm like, dude, I don't know, man. Like, fucking figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, I know you're asking me to figure it out, but it's something where it's like, if you don't give me something to answer, it's really like, you know, what you want me to write a full biography on exactly what you should do. You know what I mean? Like, it's just too much to answer in one go. So just understand that about, you know, your situation. Have something to specifically ask, and then show them everything that you have that would be relevant to that information. You know what I'm saying? And that should put you in a better spot to kind of, you know, be, to kind of get something answered. You know what I'm saying? So hope that helps, dude. Brett said, I'd say the most useful thing I've seen come out of Lightbox for several friends was that got fired from it last year was just eyes. It's just eyes. They had the skill already, and the recruiters just exchanged cards and said, yo, if you want to work for me, but if you're not at that level, yeah, the advice gets covered. Yeah. You know, it really is like, you know, it's getting people to look at your work, right? Which is very good, right? I think like there are times like, cause I've had people like, oh yeah, you know, can I see your business card? I'm really excited about your work. And then, you know, I guess they weren't that excited because they never called back. You know what I mean? I'm not saying like that, but it's just something where it's like, just for everybody trying to find work and, you know, going to conventions like this, understand that, you know, chances are you probably won't come out of it with a job. Just be real. Just understand that that's probably not the case. So what can you do at the convention? And that's the better question, right? That's the thing that you actually want to be asking yourself. It's what can you do to set yourself up at the convention, right? Because that's like, because why do you even go, right? Because for all of us, it's like, you know, it's I'm going to this convention. I'm spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to be there, right? Because if you don't live in the area, right, it's not just the ticket of the cost of admission. It's the flight, it's the living, it's the, you know, all the above. And so if you're spending thousands of dollars to be somewhere, right? Now, what are you doing? What's the point of you being there, right? And it really is setting up the connections, right? Just talking to people. And the best thing that you can do at a convention is just say hi. Just be like, hi, my name is so-and-so. this is some of my work. You know, this is what I'm trying to do. That I want to work at your studio or work at a studio that you work at, right? Something similar. And then just be like, you know, thank you for your time and, you know, have a good day. You know, I really love your work, whatever it is, right? Just keep it very professional, keep it very chill. Because what you're doing is you're setting it up for the next time that they see you. Because what you're going to do is you're going to bust ass, right? Everything that they told you, you're going to be like, hey, you know, I need to rehaul my portfolio. I need to do all this stuff. You're going to bust ass and make sure that portfolio looks good. And then you do the email. You'd be like, hey, you know, we met at Lightbox. You told me to do this thing. I did it. What do you think? Right? And don't send it like a week later or like a day later. Wait like 6 months to a year, right? Wait a while. Get good at what they're telling you to do. Because, you know, I'll get like reviews where I'll get feedback where it's like, I did that thing. I went home. It's like, dude, it's Sunday. Like I'm still at the convention. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that you can't do that, but it's like, give it some time. I think what they really, if you were that close, they would have told you, right? Usually it means like, hey, you know, you're not quite there yet. So just kind of keep working on it and you'll get there. You know what I mean? So whenever you're doing stuff like this, just understand that, like, just come back, right? Just make sure that they remember you somehow and then, you know, go from there. So cool. Kathleen says, them skincare brands be cheating. Doesn't count when you already have amazing skin. Yeah. Yep. That's how it is. I don't have amazing skin. I never took care of my skin. I played a lot of tennis in the sun. I didn't put lotion on or sunscreen on. I'm like all freckled out, but you know, it is what it is.
Kenny, what you said about, if you were really close, they would tell you is something that I have found to be very true and like very important. Like, I think to like really look out for when you do talk to people.
Yeah.
Because it helps yourself, like with your own self-evaluation as well. Like sometimes, you know, like being good at evaluating yourself and your skill, I think is good, but being able to like really see what people think about you, because more times than not, like people are never going to say like you suck. If somebody comes along and they do genuinely suck, no one is going to tell them that they suck.
Yeah.
And like no one's going to tell you if you suck. They're going to just be like, they're going to say something to kind of like spin it to be like, oh, like, have you thought about taking, you know, like an anatomy class if you want to do characters? Like, they will say things more like that. Like, I think the biggest thing is like, just keep working on your fundamentals, I think means you're not there yet.
Yeah.
If you're talking to like a professional, and it's not to say like working on your fundamentals is like important for everyone always, but I think like it is really important too. And something for me that was like really funny and weird, but this is like, because this is back when I was like working for, right before I was offered the jobs at the mobile game studio. Mm-hmm. This is like when I was interviewing for it, and this has like never happened in an interview for me, but it was something too where I was like, I think people sometimes are like more bold when they do know, because basically in my interview, my interviewer told me that they wanted to hire me for this job, like in the interview. And I knew other people that were interviewing, and I couldn't say anything to them because I didn't want to like hurt their feelings, because they weren't told that. They were like holding on. They're like, when we were talking about how the interview went, they were just like, I don't know, but you know, you never know. And I was like sitting there like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? It's like, it's something where whenever you're, you know, whenever I give review, and I mean, I do this too, right? I'm 100% guilty of this. And it's something where it's like, because I'm never just going to be like, hey, you're trash, you need to fix that. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you guys might think that you want to hear that, but you really don't. You know, no, I don't think anybody like wants to hear that. Like even my best friends, like I don't think I would say that to, and it would be okay. You know what I mean? So it's just something where it's like, just understand, just listen to what they're saying. Like, hey, I think you're pretty close, or there's if they recommend like a basic class to you, you're probably a more like a beginner level student, right? You just think about it like, oh, hey, I just got told I need to take a beginner level course. Chances are you might be suffering in the foundation levels, right? Or if they're like, hey, I think you should take a portfolio level course because I think you're pretty close. Generally speaking, that usually means your thought process probably isn't strong enough, right? What they're saying is that, your paintings look okay, but your thought, your ideas really aren't that strong. It's a lot of the same kind of general things, you know what I mean? And just understand that, because people, the worst thing you can do, especially as like a teacher, is discourage somebody from doing something. You know what I mean? Like I'm never going to just shut somebody down, because it's like, I would rather you just continue grinding, getting better at whatever it is you're trying to get better at, than like just tell you that you're trash and basically, make people reconsider what they actually want to do, right? And it's because it's something from like, I believe you can do it. I'm not saying that it's only the select few, because I don't believe in that bullshit. If you ever hear that, that's not, I don't think that's true at all. But it's something where it's like, I think everybody can do it, but you do need to figure out what your issues are. You need to figure out what those problems are, because that's, if you're not going to get through without solving it. And I think like, I'll give reviews, for example, and they're like, oh yeah, I think you need to take like some perspective class, or I think you need to do some foundational things. And then it's like, oh cool, yeah. And then I see them in like a portfolio level class. I'm like, no, don't do that. Because I know you're in a hurry. Generally speaking, it's because you're in a hurry, because you're about to graduate something, you're pressed on time. And I get that. I truly do. But the fastest thing that you can do for your career is slow down, right? Stop and try to learn everything that you started skipping, because the reason you're probably not getting the jobs or the offers that you're expecting to get is because you skipped a lot of steps, right? If you're skipping perspective things, right, it's really hard to be a environment artist, right? Even if you know 3D, because the difference now is that, I can just tell where you painted versus where the 3D happened. You know what I mean? Like it's something where it's like 3D is really cool and it's amazing, but if eventually you have to paint, eventually you have to do something. So if that's the case, like, what are you know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you, like, how are you going to address that if you can't match what the 3D is showing you, or what the 3D is putting out? Because, you have to match photo real, or if you're really good at 3D, right? And that's the kind of ideas that you want to think about when you're doing stuff like this,
Kenny, I was talking to Sela just, the other day, and I was thinking about learning 3D. And they were both like, let me tell you something Kenny said.
Yeah.
And it was basically that.
It's funny, like 3D is something where it's like, it's super important. Everybody needs to at least know it to a degree, right? I think everybody should learn 3D. I absolutely think that's the case. But it is not going to carry you ever, right? What it does though is it reveals that you're bad at 2D. If you suck at 2D, your 3D is gonna suck too, right? I don't, you know what I mean? Like I don't want to say it like that, but it's like if you're not good at designing, if you're not good at composition, you're not good at lighting, color, this and that. Now I can just see it in all angles. You know what I mean? Like I could just see the shit design from 360 view. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't change anything. And I think that's the biggest thing where I think people are like, oh, you got to learn 3D. It's like, no, you got to be a good designer. Technically, yeah, you do have to know 3D. There's a level of understanding that needs to go there, but you need to be a good designer first. That's the harder part. You can learn a program in a week, or be functional within a month, right? But to be a good designer, that takes years. It takes like decades to be a great designer, right? And so whenever you're, doing these things, just understand that, it's 3D is great. only if you're ready for it. And if you're somebody that's like wondering if you're ready for it, you're not ready for it. You know, just straight up. Like if you're wondering if you need if you should learn 3D or learn fundamentals, do 3D. No, sorry, do the fundamentals, right? Do the harder thing. 3D is easy. You'll figure that out. You know what I mean? Not easy, but it's like, I mean, just there's tutorials. You know what I mean? So I don't say it like that, but you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I definitely like, I can relate to a lot of what you said, because even if I am like good enough for some art, like I really want to get into animation, and I've already shared like, you know, one of the studios that I really want to work for, but I have found myself like in a position where I'm wildly unprepared, and I didn't like know how unprepared I was really until I took your ENT class, and I was not trying to like cut corners when I took it. I was taking art classes at like another community college, and I had just taken like environment design and vehicle design and like, but just like I took like a visual communications, like I took a lot of the classes that were like on the, so I was like, I can take this ENT class, but the skill level
Yeah.
from my peers was just way different.
Yeah.
So
this it's
that-
it's definitely
actually
like
kind of-
oh good.
like I think when I first started at Brainstorm, I loved the information that I was learning, but I was experiencing a lot of like discouragement, and also just like regrounding and recentering myself too, because I feel like if I like doing a certain type of art, if there's a field I specifically like want to go into, like I have to be okay with that, even if I'm surrounded by a bunch of people that are doing like really crazy things with their art, because some of the stuff that like you guys create, I want to be able to create some, like I would say like you, Kenny, as one example, like a lot of your environments I think really inspire me, and I would like to create more environments like that one day. But also because a lot of your work is visual development, and I think like that to me is just like broadening my own horizon, like what I would really need to be able to do anyway if I want to be a successful visual development artist.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like for me, it was like accidental that I didn't know that I was like trying to cut corners. I just took the class, and I was like, I did not really feel ready for that class at that time.
Yeah, I mean that happens a lot where it's not like your fault or anything, you know. It's not I'm not saying that like you're like trying to avoid things, but it is something where it's like, you know, I think sometimes like jumping into that more advanced class, it can be eye-opening oftentimes, right? You know, for those that are like thinking about taking classes and stuff like that, right? Try talking to somebody first, because you know, there's, when you sign up for a class, especially if it's like a la carte where like you just pay for the class, you know what I mean? You can end up in a class that is way too advanced, and it's not that you won't learn something, but you'll learn maybe like 10%, 20, 30% of what you're supposed to be learning. And like the better you are, the more you kind of like get out of that course, you know what I mean? But the cool part about all that is like, just as long as you take the advice, as long as you like use it, you know, like understand what people are saying and start applying it when you can, you know? I think that's one of the better ways to kind of go about it, because we always jump into a class. Like I did that way more than you know, I should have, right? Because I took a world building 3 class before I even took world building 1 and 2. You know what I mean? Like that's, for those that know the Brainstorm structure, like that's dumb. You know, that's just not a smart decision, right? But I mean, I had taken some environment classes, but when I got there, I just wasn't as qualified as probably I needed to be. And there was a lot of catch up that I had to do, right? And, you know, it's, you know, if you put in the work and you understand foundations enough, you could probably do it, but it is something where it's like, you know, it makes things more difficult than they need to be. And it's already hard as hell, You know what I mean? Like it's, so that's just one of those things. All right. Alex says, make the patterns and stuff and just copy them. Oh, sorry. Wait, I got a lot of questions here. Sorry. Finn Down says, would there ever be a case where it'd be a good idea not to show someone your portfolio if they ask? I know artists can be very self-conscious about their art, but first impressions do matter sometimes. Well, I'm trying to think of a scenario where it wouldn't be, it'd be smarter to say no, right? I'm trying to think of a reason, and I don't think so. Because generally speaking, right, and I don't want to say it like this, but students are usually the ones that ask for portfolios, right? Because they'll be like, oh, hey, can I see your portfolio? You know what I mean? I don't say it like that, but generally speaking, I don't know, unless it's like an advice thing. I'm like, if it's like, hey, I need help on this thing, can you help me? I'll ask for a portfolio. But if you're not doing any of that, I will never ask you, right? Just because that's not a conversation starter. Just for anybody, anybody listening, asking for portfolios is not really the best conversation starter. It might be something that, like, if you're in a line for a portfolio, that's fine, I guess. But just understand that you can ask a million other questions. So generally speaking, I don't think of a professional that I know has ever asked. I'm sure there is. I'm absolutely sure there is. I'm not saying that's never the case. More often than not, I don't think a professional is really asking you right off the bat without you having one in your hands, or without the context of, hey, you're getting a portfolio review. You know what I mean? But if that does happen, just show them. You know what I mean? Because you never really know. I think something that people get scared of is like, oh, I don't want to show my work because I'm nervous about what people think and stuff like that. It's like, the biggest thing is you got to get over it. I don't want to say it like that, but I mean, it's something where this is what we do. We put our work for display and people judge it. That is what our job is, right? Whether it's for an art director, whether it's for your mom, whether it's for the general public, this is what we do. And you have to be okay with that. But also, like, if you're worried about making a bad impression, I don't think that would be an issue, just because it's like, you're probably not asking to work there. Right? At the very least, you're probably not, I guess, 100% trying to, ask them right then and there. Maybe you're talking to an art director that's like, oh, hey, I want to work at your studio eventually. You know what I mean? But it's not like this second that I'm applying. You know what I mean? So I don't think it'll ever be an issue, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Possibly, but that's what I think. So, and then Finn also says, is there any time you would use the same asset breakout approach for hard surface designs? Yes, this is where I learned it from. That the hard surface process, or I guess for everybody kind of watching this stream right now, right? What I did was, and I kind of breezed through this, but I made a rock and I spent I won't say uncomfortable amount of time painting it, but it was a while. It was like, when is he going to move on? Kind of a while. You know what I mean? At least I felt that way. I don't know if you guys felt that way, but I painted a rock and I was like, cool, it looks like a rock. And what I did was I took the shapes that I had already made, right? The same paintings that I had from before, right? These shapes that we're seeing here. And I just clipped it in, and it's like kind of starting to be where I want it to be, right? And I just spent the time, I painted one rock once, and I scaled it up. I moved it around. I've been adjusting things. I've been, changing things up. But hopefully you can't really tell that that's the same rock splashed or thrown in there like 50 times. You know what I mean? Or if you guys can probably see it because you saw me do it. But generally speaking, I usually get away with it. So, it's just something where it's like, you don't really know. And then you got to go in there and you address things, you make things better. You add what you need to add to make that look good. Right. But the whole point is, it's not, I just kind of throw shapes in there because I need something to get me started, right? It's just there to kind of help me kind of get in a better spot, and then I can kind of see, You know what I mean? Like, you ever like try to paint something and you don't even know where to start? You don't even know like what you need to make that painting even start to work. Like you're looking at a blank silhouette and you're like, oh, hey, I need to do this thing. I need to add this. I need to make this rock more defined. What the hell do I do? You know what I mean? And that happens to me more often than not. And so I'll just basically kind of spam this rock texture because I made it, and then I'll just paint it up. You know what I mean? So it's really quick. It's faster than you would imagine. And then this is just one asset. If I had like, you know, a whole pack of assets, which I usually do, I'll just keep doing that. You know what I mean? So it's very fast. And the cool part about this is that it's knocking out a couple different things at the same time, right? And I'll show you what that is. You're doing a painting, this painting right here, right? Which is great because you're finishing it, which is awesome. And then you are setting yourself up for the next painting, because it's not that your other paintings won't have rocks in it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that weird to have rocks in multiple paintings, especially paintings in the same kind of vein, right? And then 3, you have a consistent form language in the rock. How many times have you painted a rock and one rock looks kind of weird? It's like, oh, that's a little rounder than the rest of the rocks. It feels kind of off. You know what I mean? So you're using the same form language and you're using the same piece that's probably gonna be shown in multiple pieces. And then you're finishing off this painting pretty quickly. And then you have a call out for the rock. You have the piece, because in production, for those that don't know, whenever we have a painting like this and they need to recreate it, they need to make it in the show or whatever, right? We'll have assets just like this, where it's like, oh yeah, here's a rock that kind of looks like what it would look like. Obviously there's some cleanup that needs to happen, but it's a rock that looks like it's supposed to be in this world, right? And they'll model this rock. You can hand this off to a modeler and they'll get, you know, hopefully get kind of close. And that's the beauty of it all. You know what I mean? You're doing all of this legwork by just spending time and painting one rock, and how effectively you use it is how quickly you can get through a painting, right? This painting was, here, let me show you where it was at. Episode 3, there you go. Boom, boom, boom. Let's go. It was like here, right before the, you know, whenever we started this painting, right? I painted one rock and we're like, you know, everything that needs to be painted, you know, is kind of mostly there. And then I dropped in this grass texture that I had, my asset, right? Like this. It's a hilly, grassy kind of thing. And I desaturated it and kind of turned it into the color of the sand. I warped it so I can get a little perspective out of it. And then now I have this texture on the ground that kind of gets me most of the way there. And all these textures are really quick and they're all consistent, and you can kind of play with them and it kind of gets you most of the way there, you know? So very useful trick. If you want to, you know, try it out, I highly recommend it. If you think it's a little weird, if you think it's like a waste of time to like slow down and paint that rock, I promise you it's not. It's, I don't know. For me, it's life-changing. So you can, you guys can try it out if you like, but yeah, so that's what I recommend.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny though. Like, so I teach a style and mood class at Brainstorm. I'm not trying to promote the class, but I teach this class that we cover like a bunch of different styles throughout the class. Every week's a different style. And, you know, theoretically speaking, you should only need one of those weeks, right? Just because it's like, you know, you won't really need to kind of go through a bunch of different styles every, you know, within your career. You're probably going to get through maybe 1 or 2 or maybe 3, right? But the cool part about, I guess, what I like about that class specifically is that it teaches you how to work in other pipelines and understand different workflows, because this process that I'm learning isn't something that I learned in animation. This is something that I learned in concept art, in games, in film, right? Doing photo bashing, right? Because in photo bashing, what we do is we take a photo, we cut out the piece that we need, and then we save it, or we save it, like the way I was taught by my teachers and my coworkers. And so we take the piece and we save it out and we have it on a separate sheet, and we'll use that piece as much as possible, just like what we're doing here, right? And the only difference is now, instead of using a photo, I just use my own painting, because, you know, if you're trying to make a painterly approach, right? Generally speaking, you want it to look painterly. And so that's why I'm doing things this way. But I don't think I would have gotten there if I didn't just do this in a photo bashing way. Like, cause this is a photo bashing process. And, you know, in animation, you're like, oh, why would I ever need to learn how to photo bash? This is why, right? Because there's a lot of different techniques that you can use that really help get you efficient with what you're doing. And the style and the end result really is up to you. You know, it really is up to like how you decide to finish things. It can be, you know, you can see it as a way to like, you know, I guess, like it might slow you down, but you can also try to find different ways to use the same techniques that you know. You know what I'm saying? So. Wait, Kenny, what studio said they wanted a cross between theme park and games? Oh, it was Sony. I was working at Sony Music for a while. I mean, it was Sony Corporation at the time, but it's Sony Music now, or Sony Immersive. It's a VR thing. So, but yeah. So yeah, it's I think it's the idea. It's not like, you know, they were like, we're making a VR theme park or anything like that. But it is it's the idea, because oftentimes when you go into a games or a job setting, right, they have like reference as to like what they want this project to feel like, and that's kind of what you wanna that's what you wanna like kind of understand. It's like they're trying to describe their product to you somehow. And, you know, in this case, like a game theme park thing was kind of within the realms. There's other references that I can't mention, but yeah, that's the idea. Yo, this painting came through quick, bro. Dude. All right, let's see what else we got here. I want some moss. That's what I want. So, guys, you guys have any other questions? Anybody else? Let's see. Let's put this here.
I'm struggling to figure out what to paint for homework for the styling bid.
Yeah, it's tough. I love I love not giving people exactly what to paint. Just because it's funny too, though, because, you know, because I do that in my you haven't taken my World Building 2 class, but for those that have, I'll give you an assignment at the end, right? But those first couple weeks, for those that know, it's literally like, I'm like, hey, just paint whatever you want. You know, here's the assignment. Here's the thing. Here's you know, give me, you know, however many thumbnails, however many lighting composition things, blah, 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 this and that. Right. But I don't tell you what to paint. And some people find that excruciatingly uncomfortable, right? Where they're like, I can't do it unless you tell me. And I'm like, you got to get used to it, because it happens. That's our job. Right. But then after like 6 weeks of that, we get into doing the project where I give you a story. I tell you what to paint, and they like freak out. They're like, man, like I can't figure it out. You know, because they get so used to like blue sky development basically, and then trying to design within a prompt gets super difficult. And it's I don't want to say it's fun to watch, because that's messed up, but it is an interesting development, because it's the same person. It's not even like a different person. It's like the same general like group or people that kind of feel that way, and it's a very interesting result that kind of happens. So
my issue is not that I have a shortage of ideas. I have no shortage of like ideas, but I keep jumping between them and I struggle to decide. Like, I still struggle with the deciding factor, but not because I don't have ideas of what to paint. But yeah, it does kind of suck to be like that.
It's a cruel and unusual punishment, right?
The challenge I always deal with is when you're starting a project and you are so certain that you know what it is that you want. You have this image in your head. It feels like you know what you're going for, You try and make it, and it's just like, I have no idea what I'm making. None of the things that I had planned make any sense. And then trying to resolve that is just, it's just kind of painful.
Yeah, that's tough, right? Because you sometimes you come in with a vision, and then you, I guess, exit with a different vision, essentially, right? Or even if like sometimes you don't even exit. You know what I mean? It's like it's tough.
What I'm talking about is more of the dissonance between like feeling like you know what it is that you want, and then that vague imagery in your head not actually translating as well as you expected it to.
Oh yeah, no, totally.
Constant struggle.
That happens to me. I don't say like every day.
That's the job, I guess.
But like, yeah, it's it's a very familiar occurrence, to say the least. So. It's funny. I started this painting, and I was like kind of going. I was going through it. I was like, we were painting the rock, and I think I spent like almost an hour on that. I mean, I was talking through most of it, so there's that. But when I was doing it, I was like, man, this is taking a really long time, right? Because I think, I don't know, did I spend like, there's a recording, so I can figure that out later. But it's like, it felt like I spent like 45 minutes to almost an hour. And for those that know me, that's a long ass time to be on one rock, right? Especially during like a live demo like this, which is like boring as shit, right? But it's cool because you can see how quickly this thing comes together, right? It's not done by any means, right? But did it hit the 75% mark? I would definitely say it's not far off, right? And obviously with a little more time, I'll get to that point. But it's something where it's like, I had about, I think I started this demo right at 8 o'clock. So the 2-hour mark, or the start of the second hour of this stream. And what I was doing was I just painted the rock for probably another 45 minutes to an hour. And then I started using that rock and splashing around. You can see how quickly it came together. And now it's like, from like, if you like stepped away for a second, it'd be like really hard to tell, like, that there was something that, what I mean? That I was like doing something here, that something like I was doing something before this, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's a very quick process. And I highly recommend it for anybody that's on the fence about it, or like trying to figure out how to get faster and like paint more consistently. Try it. Just give it a shot, see what happens. And you're not going to get it on the first try, but it is a bit of like, just trying to just try the process out and just get used to, I guess, letting the abstract shapes kind of take over, right? The same reason why whenever I started here, I didn't really care about these smaller shapes, right? The rocks, the clouds. I just need to know that there's a cloud there. I'll fix it. You know what I mean? I'll get it to a point to where hopefully it looks okay. But I'm painting the pieces as I go, right? This piece was created week 1. This piece was created week 3 or 4. This piece was created from the last live streams, and I just keep using it because they're mine. I can use them as much as I want, as long as it matches style. I don't use them in like photo bashing or anything like that. But it is something where it's useful for the project, and for the rest of this project, you're going to be seeing those pieces over and over and over again. And right now it's one rock, right? And I understand it's not that much, but we did start with one cloud, right? And now we're at one rock, one cloud, and I can spend time. What I would usually do is paint maybe 3 or 4 rocks, and then paint a couple different clouds and stuff like that, and eventually, get to that point. So, but yeah, so. Pius says, do you guys know any good color courses or good courses on color and light? Ooh. I haven't taken any in a long time, so I can't really say. I know the what is it, the Warrior Art Academy or Warrior Art Club? The Weekend Warrior Painters. They have some really good color artists there. They're all animation, biz dev. I think most of them are. So definitely look into that. But definitely, yeah, if anybody has any suggestions, type it in the comment. Share it, spam it. If you teach one, not you specifically, you Pius, but if there's somebody here that does teach one, right? Definitely, or somebody that's watching, just say it. It's not just about me, right? This is something where it's like, for everybody. I'd love to I'd love to make this more of a community thing where it's like, you know, we're helping each other out, right? Obviously, I'm the one on camera, and this is the thing I'm doing, but it is something where, you know, the Discord is kind of where like we share a lot of that information, and hopefully, you know, we get better together, right? The whole point is we learn something and we pass it on to another person, right? We help each other out to kind of get there. I think for me, one thing that I really enjoyed about art school, right, is like some of the friends that I don't want to say like, oh, the friends we made along the way. I don't want to say it like that, but there's a lot of like, you know, we were like in the trenches together. We were like learning, taking classes together and all this and that. And it was fun because, you know, the second somebody would learn something, they're like, dude, I figured something out. I did this thing, or so, my instructor showed me this, or my art director showed me that, and we like sit down and be like, hey, you know, what was it? And they'll show us, and everyone's like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Like they're freaking out because it's life changing. Like, you know, a lot of these things I've learned from my fellow friends and artists and stuff like that, and you know, I just want to like share that because that's what helps the most. The teacher can do a lot, right? The teacher does do a lot to kind of help that growth. But the biggest thing really is each other, right? Just other people in your group, because that's who you're going to be working with. And just remember those people, right? The people that helped you out, you know, during those times, you know, when they didn't have to. Just remember them whenever you know, you're asked at your studio, like, hey, do you guys know anybody? Do you guys know any artists that need work right now? Because, you know, that's what we do, right? So that's why we're a community, not just some class where it's an exchange of information, where it's just like, oh, here's some money and here's your information. You know what I mean? Like we don't want it to be just that, right? So. Dope. Cool. Rocks are rocking, right? They're starting to look like rocks, which is great because that's what I needed them to look like. Nah, that cloud's dumb. Don't do that. That's an amateur mistake. Oh, why does this cloud look funny? Do I want that? I kind of want that. Oh yeah, for anybody that's watching or that's going to be there, I'm going to be at Lightbox on Saturday. So if anybody's around, definitely come find me, message me, hunt me down. I'd love to meet you guys. You know, I'd love to meet for those that like are there, you know, or kind of want to meet up and stuff like that. I'd love to just put a face to the name. You know what I mean? So definitely feel free. But yeah, I'll be around. Join the. I do recommend join the Discord for those. You know, we're wrapping up at this point, so. But join the Discord. You know, be around, talk to people, and then there's a Lightbox group, right? If you join and see it, just go to the role change section at the bottom, and you'll see respond to this comment for to be part of that Lightbox group. That way we can like message each other and stuff. But yeah, just feel free, reach out. We'll schedule a meet, or I'll tell you where to meet and stuff like that. So yeah, would definitely love to put faces to names, you know. Boom.
Will Gloria be there as well?
I believe so. She should be. I'll have to ask her. She doesn't have a ticket yet. So we'll have to see.
No. Tell her Audrey says come.
She's listening. I think she is. So she's somewhere.
Oh, hello.
She's usually listening to the live stream, so she's trying to be supportive.
Well, I'm saying, oh no, she doesn't have a ticket because I heard that Saturday already is sold out now. So
yeah, that is the thing.
Gloria can
I wish they'd do the online component again. I wasn't expecting much, but that one year where they did Lightbox entirely online via Discord was actually really, really good.
Nice.
Like,
I missed
one of the
that
most
one.
fun conventions I've had somehow, despite being completely online.
Oh wow. Yeah, I missed that one. I was busy that year and I wasn't able to go. But yeah, it looked cool, and I was like, it's exciting because obviously something very unprecedented happened during those years.
Yeah,
But it was cool that they still held it. At the very least, they tried to figure it out.
yeah,
so
yeah.
That was really cool.
I mean, it was a different vibe, but because they had so many Discord breakout rooms, it just gave you permission to just go in and start conversations with people. There was no barrier.
Yeah.
So it was fun. I miss it.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. I think it's stuff like that. I do understand, like there's because there's a whole online community for anything, right? Just because people around the world, right? Geography, right? And like it's cool because I think that's what I like about, like, especially like a lot like my Discord, for example. Like I really like that you can just hit someone up, or you can ask for feedback or something and just be around the world, or not be that you don't have to be at the location where everybody's at, or at these events if you can't afford it or whatever it is. And it's a super useful I guess tool. And for anybody, like if you're like wanting to be an artist, if you're somebody that's like striving to be an entertainment designer of any sort, you don't have to join mine specifically, but find one. There's plenty of resources online. There's plenty of people putting their Discords out there. I just happen to be one, and definitely like, be a part of it because it's super helpful. And that's, I do find that people tend to grow just a little bit faster from what I've seen, just because they're part of things like this. You know what I mean? So. Sick. Oh. Dude, we got 18 people watching, bro. What's up? What is up? Let's see. What else we got? We have 3 minutes left, right? And if it looks like I'm avoiding the centipede, it's because I definitely am. I'm gonna do a whole stream on just addressing that thing, make it look really cool and all spiffy and all scary looking. Oh, but we'll kind of get there, because of what I want to do with this. The whole point behind doing this specific phase, right, just refining things a little bit, is because a lot of this stuff is going to set us up to have an image that works, that's a lot easier to kind of like manage a little bit later, right? So for example, this centipede is not going to look exactly like that. Starting next week, actually, we're going to be getting into design stuff. But a rock is going to look like a rock. A cloud is going to look like a cloud. There's some refinement that we have to do, and there's things that we need to change. But at the end of the day, right, it just comes down to the, we want an image that kind of holds together and at least says what we need it to say. It's kind of in the realm of what we were planning, right? And then now we can start designing and knowing the full context of what this thing is, where this thing is, and what it's supposed to be doing, right? So for those of you kind of following along and doing your own projects, just remember, like this pass, we are slowing down just to kind of work on quality just a little bit, right? Just so we have a good image to kind of get us most of the way there, because this image sells like what we're even doing, right? Am I even doing something that's important? Am I even doing something that's worth putting my time into? And as long as you have that, which, I feel like this image hits it decently well. As long as we have that, we can get it to a point to where we can start designing every single aspect of this to the nth degree, right? To as far as we want. But we need an image that's even worth pursuing, right? So I'm going to take this painting just a bit further in the week to come, right? This next week, as much as I can. This weekend we're going to be a little busy with Lightbox, right? But I'm going to be doing some stuff with it, and hopefully by next week we can actually get into like full design, right? Really talking about a lot of like the function, a lot of talk about the inspiration, the blending, and this and that, and make something that actually looks interesting. Right now we have nature landscapes and then this creature, right, which really isn't that crazy, but it really comes out in the design phase where we're going to be kind of mixing our designs just a little bit further, right? So with everybody here that's doing the next phase and stuff like that, try to try to really set up a mood, right? Don't design the thing, design the moment, right? You want to design a scenario that you can then plop a lot of your designs into, right? Don't try to show the thing off yet, because the thing that we're trying to show isn't quite designed yet. That's what next week's about. Because we'll slow down, we'll do some call outs, we'll do all the whole design phase and stuff like that. So, but cool. All right, guys. Well, with that in mind, this is kind of where this painting's gotten so far, right? Just showing from week 1, right? We did that in a couple seconds, right? It was like a 10-minute process to get from 0 to this. And then from there, we kind of took this a little bit further, and during that same session. And then now we're kind of adding more refinement, giving our shapes volume, texture, lighting, detail, information as a whole. And then we're going to get into designing like full on, like understanding the design principles and things like that once we're getting into those weeks. So if you have a project that you want to work on, right? Like I've said in previous weeks, we're following a process here. And, maybe you didn't do the thumbnail phase, but if you have one painting, you're like, hey, I kind of want to start jumping into this design process. Take that painting and we can kind of go from there. I'll explain how we go about it next week. We're still finishing off the keyframes with everybody else on this week from here till 7 days from now. But starting next week, we're going to be getting into designs, right? Really like learning how to combine references and really how to make an interesting, appealing design that says something, right? So, but cool. With that in mind, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Definitely would love to, include you in these chats. If you want to be part of this, definitely check out my Discord. It's if you go to my Instagram, if you go to the About Me section on this YouTube channel, if you do, if you look up Kenny Voart and click the link tree, you'll see it, right? But yeah, feel free to join. We'd love to have you. And that's all I got, guys. So thanks for watching.